else. I'm gonna watch the bearded guy talk with three other bearded guys. So it's a bearded guy fest. Sausage fest.
Want the world to get
Oh. Actually, you need to wear my headphones for this. I actually do need to wear headphones for this.
better, you do the work between the elections, and during the election you make the best choice, and then you get your ass back to work. You, like me, spend a lot of our time whining online. That's our jobs. But the difference between you and me is that I don't think I'm special for my abstemiousness from the process that other people have lived and died and bled for, trying to build a world comfortable enough that we could be dipshits in a computer chair.
True. True. It's true, you deep shit.
I try to keep my nose out of drama unless I'm directly implicated in it, and I keep hearing people sort of
keep jumping head fast into drama. You don't know? Lucy is basically a drama streamer at this point all the time.
like foretelling, you know, like the church bell tolls. What's happening here? What's going on?
So I've done a lot of introspection over the last couple of days because I've been accused of having.
I've also done a lot of introspection. It's interesting. We've all been doing introspection lately, even me. If I do introspection, then that means something's going on, doesn't it? This one is great because it has high drama and great politics from Vaush. Well, wait till you hear my commentary. Wait till you hear my transformation of this content. Wait till you see what I have to add. I don't think of Lucy and think of Drama Maker. Maybe drama reactions. It's true. Also, subscribe or something, please. I have big plans, and in order to fulfill the big plans, I have to make big money, and in order to make big money, I need your help.
A real bad case of the
that is how it
VDS.
goes.
What
and
I do?
think, well, here's the thing.
That's
here's the thing. I think what I actually have is VFDS. I've got Vosh fan base derangement syndrome, which I think is
I've got that too.
That's a whole
I
different.
don't have any derangement syndromes. Thank you. I'm a well-adjusted individual. I'm a full-grown adult. I'm a you get the girl. You get the drill.
Different ball of wax. You know what I mean? Because you know, you and I haven't talked in like 2 years or something, and every show I do, there are still people reminding me that you handed me my ass 2 years ago, Vosh. You grabbed my ass, put it on a silver platter, flipped it around, and handed it right to me.
Nice. Yes. Jose, it seems very difficult to come up with videos or topics for each stream. Nah, it's okay. I have,
2 years later.
2 years later.
Look, the people in my audience really like Biden. Okay, it's they're fanboy. It's not even for me. Okay, they're just running around proselytizing.
Didn't even give you a reach around, Paul.
I don't need a syndrome to be deranged.
How it goes though. That's how it goes.
I think it boils down to the same old song and dance, honestly. To be
what song and dance? Vote? That song and dance? Move your butt to the booth and put in a piece of paper into a box? Damn. The sacrifice. The trials and tribulations that people have to go through.
To set aside the jokes. I think it's the vote blue no matter who thing. I think it's the kind of making apologies for Biden thing. I think it's that kind of angle. I think
it's okay. It's okay because I never apologize. I never apologize for. That's a lie. I apologize all the time for everything. But I won't be voting Biden. That's for sure. So you can hate me. You can criticize me, you can even debate me, Vaush, but I won't be voting for Biden. No matter what you say, no matter what arguments you put forward, I will never be voting for Joe Biden. There you go, I said it.
This is probably our sharpest disagreement.
Well, the real base position is not making apologies for his bad behavior, but then arguing you have to vote for him anyway, right? That's the real like electoralism pilled. There is no way out. This is what we live with. Attitude to take towards the situation.
Yeah, I don't like that either. I don't like the idea of us just eternally settling for a shitty neoconservative.
I mean, you can not settle and still vote. That makes no sense to me. You can just do the things that you want not to settle, but you can still move your ass to the booth and throw in a piece of paper. Like,
and neoliberal clothing. I don't like that. I don't think that gets us anywhere nice. I think it might stave off some of the worst shit for a couple more years, but I think we end up in the same toilet. No.
I stand by the logic. Fundamentally, nothing has really changed. If there are only two possible options, you have to go with the better of the two.
true, because if you go with the worst, then how are you gonna not settle? If you don't settle with the worst option, you're just gonna get, I don't know, arrested. I cannot use extreme language anymore because I'm a partner now.
Obviously, like rhetorically speaking, I'm not exactly thrilled to be doing anything that even sounds like defending Biden right now because of what he's doing with regards to the genocide in
Palestine.
Palestine.
Right.
So this isn't exactly like a period of time during which I'm going to go out there and proselytize and wave banners around and, you know, shoot t-shirt cannons with Biden's face on it into the crowd. Not the time for that. More probably going to focus on tearing down the GOP, you know, but ultimately, like,
isn't it
endpoint's the
time
same.
now? Isn't it time now more than ever to do that though? I mean, Biden's numbers are tanking, right?
Yeah,
he's pulled up even and is a lot of polls is losing to Trump. He's losing horribly to generic Democrats.
Oh God, he's losing to. If Trump wins the election, that would be like a disaster, wouldn't it?
Which is like one of the saddest things I've ever seen in my lifetime.
the polling's not good. I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people think it is because everyone who is going to vote for Trump thinks positively of him. At least most do. Whereas there are lots of people who don't very much like Biden but still vote.
This is an unusual election for the reason that both of these guys are a known quantity, right?
And both rather
America's already
unpopular.
had a helping of both of these dudes as president. So this is an unusual election because we've not been in a situation where we have a choice between
Paul tends to express the pointlessness of voting or protesting and of the future for the planet generally.
America has, but like in my lifetime, never had a situation where it's like, hey, do you want this guy who was president or this guy who was just president? It's like, which one do you want a second helping of? And the fact that so many Americans are just like, hey, I'll take a second helping of Trump, please, seems pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, there's no getting over just the sheer lack of intelligence of your average voter. I mean, that's definitely...
Oh no, Vosh. Is that true? Is the average American voter really stupid? Is that what's happening? Can any US viewer confirm to me right now?
Sort of an ongoing problem we have to deal with. I mean, in materially speaking, like obviously Biden's presidency has been a lot better than Trump's. The big stickler in that has been this business with the genocide of the Palestinian people that he aids and abets, which, I mean, there's no defending that.
It's so wild that he does that as well. I just cannot believe. I also cannot believe that it's still so cold, even though I'm putting the heater to the max. I still feel so cold. That's -1 for you. He basically said that people who are needs or need-like were waste him saying that they couldn't even be helpful in any way, shape, or form, and I admit I am kind of living the need and didn't matter about my mental marriage was. I'm just a need negative, it's then. I mean, you can always try to fix things, but I don't think it's I don't think it's helpful to brand people who live a certain type of life in a certain way. It doesn't help anything or anyone. But I don't think there's a situation that you cannot fix. I don't believe that. I believe that you can always try at least to fix a situation.
Obviously, Trump would have done the same thing. Trump
mean,
has been even more loud in the.
There's been more sticklers, right, than just Palestine.
Palestine is a big one, though. Palestine is a pretty big one. So I think it's fair to focus on Palestine in this case.
Well, that's definitely the main one. But apart from that, his presidency's definitely been better than I expected it to be. Certainly not perfect, but, you know, from what you get with neoliberal candidates, he's definitely exceeded in some critical areas, mostly with regards to union stuff. I mean, he was doing so well with that, and then we have this.
Yeah, I mean, I did get excited with his NLRB, you know, kind of protecting unions in a way that we haven't had since the 80s. You know, preventing companies from union busting before the union is even ratified. I think that that's a huge deal. I gave him props for that for sure. But outside of that, I find very little to crow about when it comes to the Biden presidency. You want to list off some of the wonderful things Biden has done?
I mean, he's done a good number of good things, mostly because there are good things that are just sensible governance, but it's really just a matter of whether or not he's done better than Trump, which I think is pretty easy to make the case for.
It's a low bar as well.
I'm sorry?
It's a low bar as well.
Yeah, it could be all the way down in hell. The math doesn't change.
I mean, it's a low bar, but right now that low bar is the alternative. Like, it's irrelevant that Trump being worse is a low bar, because that low bar is Biden's biggest competition right now. So we either get Biden, I mean, not we, you the viewers, either get the, I mean we, because what happens in the US affects the entire world. So I guess, yeah, okay, it's we. So either we get Biden, who's better, or we get the low bar. What do you choose, low bar or? He said even if you have a job, as long as you live with a parent or your parents, you're still a net negative. That's so stupid. Oh, that is just stupid. That is so silly. What if you have a job? Here's a wild idea. What if you have a job and have a really good relationship with your parents? I know it's pretty wild. And just choose to live with them because you like spending time with your parents. Crazy, I know.
But yeah, I mean, he's a competent.
That is a really stupid opinion, that even if you have a job, etc., and live with your parents, then you're a net negative to society. What does net negative to society means here even? That's
politician, right? In the sense that he actually cares about governing in a way that Trump and the Republicans don't. So a lot of the stuff that he does that's good is going to be like very baseline stuff, like, you know, not like keeping the country funded and not gutting the administrative state, like really, really basic stuff like that. But the bar keeps going lower. I mean, with Project 2025, the Republicans just openly admitting they plan on like gutting the democracy from the administrative state once they get the chance to. In the face of stuff like that.
Yeah,
that's not new though. I mean, they've been
strokes for different folks. People choose to live different ways, different lifestyles. It's ridiculous. That's a silly opinion.
they've been talking about that since I was a boy.
That's like their 900-page manifesto of like, hey, everything you know.
Yeah, that's the don't show up to the administrative state tomorrow. You've been cool. Don't show up. Manifesto that they wrote. Yeah, I mean they've always threatened to do stuff like this, bitched about the administrative state. Seems like they've been a lot more aggressive about it lately, but no sense in giving them the opportunity to prove to us whether or not they mean it this time.
I did have kind of a hypothetical
This is so calm so far.
question I wanted to ask you.
Hmm?
I don't know, maybe it's a little bit out there, but maybe it's not too crazy because we've seen some polls where
It's supposed to be 3v1 debate. And so far it's not really much of a debate. Doomerism versus hopeful Lenin story. This is uncomplicated. It gets heated. Oh wow.
RFK Jr. is polling at like 22% in one poll. Most polls is like 10, 12%.
You know who's gonna be the next president in the United States? You know who? Cenk Uygur. Of course. Cenk Uygur is gonna blow it out of the park. It's gonna be a home run for Cenk Uygur because Cenk Uygur is our candidate. The best candidate. True.
So obviously you could be at that, you could be at 20% and still not get a single electoral college vote.
Right.
But I wondered if there was a point where his candidacy became like he had an actual path. Would you then have to look at this three-way race and pick the lesser of three evils, or are you still just automatically for Biden?
Well, I mean, if RFK Jr. was better than Biden, he's not. I mean, he's terrible.
I think it's
but-
arguable because I mean, I think RFK Jr. is a crazy lunatic, anti-vaxxer.
Oh, so why is it arguable if he's a crazy lunatic anti-vaxxer? How is that arguable? How it? Okay, TJ Kirk.
just as pro-Israel as the rest of them. So he's got a lot of, severe issues. But there's also some stuff that I mean he's like pretty based on. So
I don't know if I'd vote for a lunatic. Hello, not here. Just because he is based on some stuff. I don't know if this is how that works for me. I don't know if this is how it should work for anybody.
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to kind of weigh it out.
Well, like what? What is he better on than Biden?
Let me just pull up his page, I guess.
Like he says stuff like that, but a lot of the stuff that he said, like at rallies or when talking to people publicly, has wildly differed from his.
That's every
His vaccine policy is gonna be
Right.
about the same as Trump's or worse.
You could say the same
So-
about Biden too. I mean, Biden ran on a $15 minimum wage. Biden ran on a bunch of, ending the border crisis. Those
I
were
think
big
there's a
talking points of
pretty
his. And
critical difference where like there's lots of like every politician will
Well,
say
you know
they'll
what?
do things.
Let's just RFK Jr. is not really important. Let's just take him out of it. Let's just say there's a third party person that rises to the level where they could win. Would it then be lesser of three evils?
Yeah, if they had a shot at winning, I suppose. I mean, the problem is because we don't have ranked choice voting, so it's
Sure.
insanely risky, even if there was a really, really good shot of trying to push a third-party candidate, because obviously if the third-party candidate's good enough to me that I would consider voting for them, they'd have to be left-leaning, which means they'd siphon more votes from the Dems. I feel like in this system, it's almost impossible to get an outcome like that. But I guess hypothetically, if the math worked out, that would probably be preferable to just like touting the two-party thing.
Don't you feel like there's like a certain risk in creating a standard for Democrats no higher than just like be better than the opposition? Like long term, don't you think that produces worse and worse candidates and hurts the party in the long run?
Well, I think the problem is that it really hasn't produced worse and worse candidates. We've been a two-party system for centuries, effectively, with very minor exceptions.
Centuries. Wow. What a wild system. Poland's more than just two-party system effectively, since you have a coalition of 4 now.
Options. And the trends that have dictated like better or worse governorship don't seem to be like it doesn't seem to be just like a downward plummet. I don't actually think that like I don't think the politicians are that motivated by the prospect of winning. Like non-participation doesn't seem to motivate Democrats in the ways that we want it to. If left-leaning people indicate that we're not reliable voters,
Scotty, by the way, has not said anything. Scotty has been silent. Has Scotty even introduced himself in this whole thing? They were this bad all this time? Who? Hello, John Smith. Who has been? Wow, you mean the amazing atheist Scotty on Paul Segal, or who?
they'll just move to the right to pick up more moderate voters, which is historically what they've done. When they feel like they don't have any chance of capturing the more active populist left-wing crowd, they're like, oh, okay, well, we'll never please those guys. When, to be fair, we are pretty unpleasable. So we're going to try and like pull over the centrist voters, the moderate voters. So you get like Clinton, for example, right? Where after Reagan and Bush Sr., they're like, okay, well, you know, the anti-war advocacy movement has basically died down. The boomers are all in like middle management corporate jobs. There isn't an active, engaged left to appeal to. The Cold War is like ending, so there's not even that. So like, who do we appeal to win? And Clinton was like, oh, well, we'll just do Reagan's economic policies, but you know, we'll smile about it and we'll be like slightly less homophobic and racist. And that works.
We know there's a ton of like very like there are things where
RFK Jr. also caused more than half of Sama to go into quarantine by telling them to not get vaccinated. Yeah, I really don't like RFK Jr.
where the
Candidates, if they aren't getting worse, they were this bad all this time. I mean,
the American people are not lockstep with the American left, but like there's a lot of very populist leftist economic policies that poll well that Bernie Sanders was taking advantage of during his campaigns to tremendous effect.
All right.
So I think there is ways to bring people in, but it seems to
Sort of.
involve, you know, doing more actual stuff for people instead of just being like, hey, here's a little few tokenistic gestures.
Scotty said something. For the
There's
first time.
competent governance, but no real change,
TJ,
except for very incrementally.
in the state you and I have lived in for a long time, Louisiana, you don't live there anymore. I mean, we normally have basically an open sort of parties thing. So like basically, if you don't get 50%, then we go from a primary, then we go to an actual election. I was actually avoided this year because Jeff Landry, a horrible conservative, won the state easily. He got over 50% of the vote, and wasn't even competitive. Because if you actually looked at the voter turnout and the race, it was 29%. So I mean, the Democratic Party in this state is a joke. They're not even really trying to run anyone credibly. When this is a state they probably actually could be competitive in, and there's a lot of states like that, but they're not competitive. There's like, that's a red state, that's a blue state, and it's like almost like neither party even gives a shit or tries.
With that Louisiana governor you're talking about,
well, the soon-to-be governor.
Well, yeah, the governor-elect. He wants to withhold funds for New Orleans water infrastructure.
He does
until women who.
Did you see those photos I sent? By do you mean the Vietnam photos? Yes. If you mean the Vietnam ones, yes, I've seen them. Yes, very nice photos. Thank you.
Who seek abortions are prosecuted.
Yep.
So basically, holding the infrastructure of a city hostage.
Oh, it's far right.
His far right social agenda is enacted against.
I watched his victory
speech, abortions,
and the first thing that's mentioned is God. It's like we're doing this for God, and family and some other stuff comes later. So yeah, that's going to be the agenda. And
King and country.
New Orleans obviously is a horribly placed city. If you don't know, it's between Lake Pontchartrain and the Mississippi River, and it's basically a giant bowl. So if those and the sewage and water problems, I mean, they have pumps. They have to pump water out of the city constantly. So withholding that infrastructure is going to make sure more people suffer and more people don't get adequate access to sanitation they need.
What if Biden dies? Who becomes the Democratic nominee? Maybe Vosh would know this. Would that just fall instantly to Kamala Harris, or
Vosh will become the next nominee if Biden croaks?
Yeah, I guess would have to. I mean, I assume they've been talking about that behind the scenes because it's
I
not
mean,
like...
it has to be a subject of discussion with his age. And
Oh,
stuff.
yeah,
They-
yeah, I'm sure they, you know, and there's a bunch of people crossing their fingers that he can make it across the finish line again. Yeah, no, it's...
Wait, that would mean that he would just die during the presidency. So it's sort of like the vice president, Vosh versus Cenk.
pretty bad there. Kamala Harris will have an even worse chance against Donald Trump than Biden by a pretty wide margin. And
Yeah,
considering
I
how
agree
bad
with you
things have
there.
been for Biden,
That's not a debate so far. Hold on.
Paul was saying that he thinks that there's not going to be any debates this debate season. He thinks that neither one of these guys is going to want to do a debate, and so they're both going to just
I
find
want to do a debate. Who wants to debate me? Nobody. Everyone's a coward. Nobody's brave enough to debate me. I've noticed.
ways out of it. I don't know if Paul's still there. If you wanted to, like,
yeah, no,
down on
I'm
that
here.
for
I mean,
Vosh.
I don't know for absolutely certain that that's what's going to go down, but I have a feeling that specifically Trump's kind of move, dodging debates and stuff, has set a precedent where it's like, I know for a fact that Joe Biden's handlers are shitting their britches about the idea of Joe Biden having to speak extemporaneously for a hour and a half. Like that's got to make people break out into cold sweats in the Biden camp. Same goes for Trump. I mean, both of these guys are demented as fuck, off the rails as fuck, and I don't know that it's going to do them any favors to engage in the kind of American tradition of debate. And so I wouldn't be shocked if there just
The
aren't
American tradition of debate.
debates this year, you know?
I think there's a decent chance that, yeah.
I'm gonna debate. But I don't know. I'll debate you on pasta. Lulu, the problem is that you want to debate with people who agree with you, like Dylan Prince. That's not. There are, I think there are things we disagree on. How do you know we agree on everything? How do you know? How do you know that? How do you know? Maybe I don't agree with many things.
A lot of the, I think right now, I think the person who's shitting their pants more is probably Trump, in large part because he's declined very rapidly in the past year or so. I think a lot of it is just the court cases. Like, he has to keep jumping around between different courthouses in different states. Like, he's lost his business license. He's losing money. He's hemorrhaging money. The GOP...
Who's hemorrhaging money? Who?
He was giving him money to pay for legal fees, but he's hemorrhaging money. Courthouses in different... I think a lot of it is just the court cases. Like, he find very more is probably Trump. A lot of the, I think right now,
Oh, Trump. Do you have any controversial game opinions? Yes, Final Fantasy VII compilation is crap, and it was a horrible idea from the get-go. It's just a cash grab. It's horrible, and I hate it. Not here is not answering my question. How do you know I don't How do you know that Dylan Burns agrees with me?
I think the person who's shitting their pants more is probably Trump, in large part because he's declined very rapidly in the past year or so. I think a lot of it is just the court cases. Like, he has to keep jumping around between different courthouses in different states. Like, he's lost his business license. He's losing money. He's hemorrhaging money.
Never. It's a bad game. Don't even Bill Portley. Dirge of Cerberus? How dare you? How dare you?
The GOP was
How
giving him
can you say that in my presence?
money to pay for legal fees, but they've stopped doing that since. Like, the actual coffers of the GOP were open to him for a...
We agree with you on issues that matter. Does he? Does he? Does he now? What about the debate about ethnic cleansing? I want to have.
a time, but now that's closed. He has people...
Dirge of Cerberus. I can't. with Dirge of Cerberus.
Flipping on him, like Rudy Giuliani couldn't even afford a bus ticket home, and he's like potentially someone who could flip on Trump. Like, he's under an amount of stress that I legitimately think would probably break most people. And the fact that he at his age is even still doing any of this is, if nothing else, indicative of like demonic constitution.
Okay.
But I think it is starting
Not
to take its
here
toll.
is my
I don't even
mod
know if he's
now.
going to make it all the way. My money would be more on Trump dying than Biden, because Biden, if nothing
Not here is my new moderator, just in case.
else, you know, the presidency is a stressful job, but is it more stressful than what
He'd
Trump?
agree with you that ethnic cleansing is bad, but would he agree with me that not every ethnic cleansing is genocide? That's the real question here. That's the question. Trans is the left's religion. True. True and real and wonderful. I pray to the trans gods every single day. 3 times.
Trump is doing right now? I actually don't know.
What percentage of Americans would think that Trump had been assassinated if he were to die of a heart attack or something like
I
that?
don't know the exact
ton.
number of people who are going to vote for him. Probably like literally 100% of prospective Trump voters would be like, "Yep, that was the CIA, 100%." And then we would have like Marjorie Taylor Greene pretending to be anti-CIA for a bit, the way she was anti-FBI to cover for Trump. So yeah, I guess that'll be fun. There's not really any easy way through
Where's the debate? Where is the debate? I'm here for the debate and they're just talking.
this, right? Like, even the best possible outcome still involves half the country adopting new radical conspiracy theories to explain their loss.
Yeah, but you know, I am one of the few reasons that I would say that one of the few things I would think of is like, hey, this is an interesting reason to vote for Biden, which I have, you know, not even come close to deciding I want to do. But I was thinking about the fact that maybe if the Democrats win enough elections, the far right wingers would be like, it's so rigged, there's no point in even doing it. You know, just totally disenfranchise the right wing. Just like, oh shit,
I think we've
it's
actually
all
kind of been
rigged
seeing
against us.
that.
No point in doing it, boys. Let's just stay home and then drink beer.
I think we've been seeing that a little bit because we've had the elections in 2022 and
Drink beer at home alone. That's so sad and depressing.
the ones we just had a week ago. In
Yeah,
both
Democrats
cases,
do seem to be beating polling.
yeah,
numbers.
consistently. So Republicans are answering their phones and saying, yeah, you know, we want this, we want Republicans, yeah, blah, blah. But then when it comes to actually going out there, the whole 2020 election fiasco was basically the entire GOP screaming, our elections are rigged, nothing you do matters. And I think as a consequence of that, there are a lot of like boomer, you know, like geriatric Republicans sitting at their couch thinking like, well, what does it matter anyway? This country's going to hell in a handbasket. You know, I hope the rapture comes soon. And they're actually themselves over a little bit, which is really funny. And one of the reasons why I'm so consistent with the Biden thing, because it really shows what faltering in electoral consistency can do for an entire party when people feel hopeless.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a huge swath of America that is, and I kind of have always felt like those people, the people in the middle that don't vote, get maligned as lazy or non-participatory. I think there's just a lot of people that don't see a point anymore.
I mean, it's okay. I've not played it much in my life. Minecraft. We could play it some, but I don't know. I've not played it super much.
And I'm sorry to say that from an economic standpoint, especially, which is
Imagine a nationwide ad campaign telling Republicans not to vote. That would be pretty funny.
really what people vote on. You know, social issues are great and they can motivate voters.
What if multiplayer? Could be fun.
But I think that ultimately people vote their wallets, and Joe Biden
Vote their wallets? What is that?
has been horrible for American wallets. You know what I mean? He's been horrible economically speaking.
No, the economy has been bad, to be sure. I don't think he's done much exceptional in either direction when it comes to economic management. I mean,
I believe so.
Inflation Reduction Act worked, so that was good. And you know, he significantly reduced child poverty for that time with the infrastructure bill. There have been like big steps he's taken forward. It seems
Yeah, vampires with shotguns that can turn into Frankenstein's monster is awesome, and you can take that away from me. We could, yeah.
like a big part of the problem is that there's not really that much infrastructure.
But if you want to play with me, you have to donate. You have to donate because nobody's been donating lately. It could say that Trump is so powerful that he will win no matter what. So just relax. True. Lily Tenshers.
For a president to do
True.
much positive with the economy without some kind of like transformative action that I don't expect from Biden because he's just a liberal, right? But like conceptually, I think you would have to reach really far out there with like some kind of insane like price control deal or like direct negotiation with corporations or like something like that, you know?
Did you see that they've trotted Obama out there now to pimp the UBI to people?
He spoke in favor of UBI? No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, Obama, they've been quietly kind of trotting Obama
now.
Out at these little events and stuff, talking up UBI.
Fucking hate
Automation is bad. You need a UBI.
He's
teacher.
basically doing the exact pitch that Andrew Yang was doing a few years ago before he decided he was going to do his stupid forward party
party.
into irrelevancy, yeah. Then tank in the
Right.
mayoral election in New York City.
I mean, if you're going to start a third party, like it should probably have, I don't know,
backing,
like and
supporters,
like, ideas, and like things you actually take positions
you
on.
see how Cornel West like announced his candidacy, went with the People's Party, which is like the Jimmy Dore grift wagon, then hopped from that to the Green Party, and then hopped from that over to being an independent in like no time at all. Really serious stuff here on the third party.
Yeah, I don't know why he's popped around so much. I saw Jill Stein's announcement video. I wasn't super impressed with that. I just put out a video about that.
So this argument of mine gets painted as emotional, and I'll admit there is definitely an emotional.
You're emotional, Paul. You're not running away from this, Paul. You're emotional.
Component to it. We'll talk about it.
That's an understatement of the year, by the way. Just emotional.
But what do you say to the argument that I find it utterly unconscionable to vote for Joe Biden, given what he is?
The answer would be the thing that Vosh said at the very beginning.
A total vampire,
liberal?
crony capitalist, destroyer of the environment, exploiter of the third world, fascist when it comes to his border policy, completely and utterly feckless when it comes to his foreign policy. Just absolutely and utterly unconscionable. Racist, author of the crime bill that put a generation of black men behind bars. I mean, the list goes on, right? I could continue.
I mean,
and this is you know, what I'm being asked as a leftist to mobilize for. And really what I feel like is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like people with your position are arguing against, like, let's give up. Let's cede the argument that we're ever going to have something to vote for again, and let's just vote against. And that's not a great motivator for me. I have, as much as I'm painted as a doomer, I have high hopes for the future of humanity. And I think that humanity could do so much better and that people could be so much better off. And when I'm served up two options, in which there's no chance for that happening, I feel completely and utterly disenfranchised, and I really find it hard to see the point. And morally, I find it hard to reconcile going and doing it.
I mean, I think that, like, at the end of the day, wanting good things is fine and all, but aspirations have to be tempered by an understanding of how to get there. It's like being a doctor at a triage and only having a limited supplies, and you can only heal 10 people for every 100, and throwing your hands up because, you know, you're engaging in a system where you don't get enough medicine to heal all 100 people. I feel like impulses like this, though well motivated, are ultimately designed
Destructive. Unproductive. Quackery.
to shut us out of power. If not by you, then like broadly in the ways they're enforced and sort of suggested and incentivized. Because by the standards you've set, we would never vote for any president, really. Maybe like, I don't know, maybe Carter first. Like there are some presidents maybe who wouldn't fit the specific set of parameters that you've said are unacceptable to you, and that's fine. But they're all bad. Power is bad. And as long as we shut ourselves out to the means to influence it, we hamper our ability to make real change down the line. It seems like nothing is changing, but that's not true. Like, it feels that way sometimes because we pay attention to politics, so we're on the treadmill. But like, little decisions day by day do genuinely add up. Like with Donald Trump, we see how quickly things can backslide. One Republican presidency gave them 3 Supreme Court judges, and that just taints the
Right.
Supreme Court for an entire generation. Trans people being banned from the military, DACA
I remember that.
recipients being threatened to kick out of the country, Muslim ban. There's so many things that it's like, and those differences are meaningful. I feel like the big problem with liberals isn't that there aren't better than the Republicans, it's that they're not good enough at proving to others how much better their ideas are. Because if you just laid out, like, difference by difference, every plan or every idea they have on every single issue, right? Republicans want to just flat out not have trans or gay people in the country. Democrats vary from being accepting to openly, like, promoting their existence. When it comes
What
to
do you think? I'm sorry to
No,
interrupt.
I could have
you.
rambled forever. Please interrupt me.
With trans people, do you not think, like, and I genuinely think this, with all of the bullshit that trans people and LGBTQ people in general get, and racial minorities and cultural minorities, lump them all, with the amount of shit that they get, I don't think that there's anybody. See, you talked about, and I assume you mean mostly social issues have progressed. So, legalizing gay marriage, anti-discrimination policies have flourished and proliferated.
Super not a thing in Poland. Gay marriage. Imagine.
In my lifetime. We've definitely made progress in that arena, but we've regressed economically. We are worse off economically than we were
before.
back in the old racist, homophobic days.
Wow.
And if that's not addressed, aren't you hurting the very self-same people that you're trying to advocate for?
But how does letting Trump win help that? It seems like the economic downturn has been a product of a bunch of really complicated factors. It doesn't seem like there's a correlation between...
It really isn't all that complicated. I mean, yes, it is. You could sit for days and write 1,000,000-page doctoral theses on what's happened in the last 40 years.
Doctoral theses. There you go. I made my joke. I made the most important joke for this stream.
In the American economy. But really, honestly, it is something that you can put in layman's terms and be really 100% spot on about.
But it's not a dichotomy. There's no relation.
I don't remember that damn turtle Mitch McConnell would have held it up till the end time somehow.
Between the advancement of social rights and the economic downturn. The economic downturn has been happening as a product of decades and decades of austerity and pro-corporate policies and a bunch of complicated globalization stuff that we can't fully control but only somewhat control. And then on the other side of things, you have like the social benefits. We can get the social benefits. We just have to vote them. Like, that does it. But as for the economic stuff, it's not like we're trading that away for a bad economy with Biden. The bad economy would have happened if Trump had won in 2020. It could potentially be worse.
The malaise and the sort of malevolence that exists in the Republican Party.
I wonder how the Ukraine war would have went if Trump won in 2020. That would have been potentially, oh gosh. Haven't even thought of that.
Party today is not just Trump, right? I mean, it's the entire party. That's been demonstrated by the Project 2025 thing, the fact that so many Republicans were willing to back Trump's little attempted coup, all that stuff. So eventually these people are going to get in power, right?
Well,
like the Republican Party, maybe it won't be this time, maybe it won't be next time.
I mean, historically speaking, boss, you have to
institute.
You have to admit
policies.
You see the
don't we want
back and forth, right?
I just feel like we need a stronger Democratic Party to go against. Like, I would think
Why are they all speaking at once? Take turns. Oh my god. I cannot understand neither of them. Neither of them can I understand. My guess is that Ukraine would not have been helped much. Exactly. Which is why professional podcasters Which is why Trump would have been a horrible president. Ukraine needs more help, not less.
Defeating these people, less important election by election than it is to ultimately defeat them. And to ultimately defeat them, I feel like we need something.
Ultimately defeat them. What does that mean? How would ultimately defeating a party would look like? What? We're not talking Saturday morning cartoon villain here. What does ultimately defeat mean?
Stronger than the Democratic Party in its current incarnation. And I don't see how we're going to get that
The ultimate
if the
weapon.
only standard we have for them is just be better than that.
I
Like,
mean,
if you can be 99% Hitler, I don't see how 99% Hitler saves the day.
at this point, like, we don't even know if
I wouldn't say that Joe Biden is 99% Hitler.
we get another election after the Republicans put forward theirs. Like, they've made it pretty clear that they intend on dismantling the democratic system in a way that was not the case back in 2016 when Donald Trump won. A lot of people initially thought he would just be another bad president, and he was. But it's pretty clear at this point, like, the writing's on the wall. The Republicans just don't want the democracy. Like, they want to bypass it entirely.
Well,
Not in any kind of euphemistic way. They will just flat out deconstruct. They're openly admitting to it at this point.
This is not new, though.
Well,
this is not
this
new.
this is. We've had Republican
is?
presidencies before. The specific willful intent to just eradicate the democratic
Oh,
institution.
you mean like when George W. Bush completely and utterly dismantled the right to privacy in this country?
So no. So I don't like the false equivalencies, okay? There are definitely anti-democratic trends that have persisted throughout the elections we've had in our lifetimes, before our lifetimes. This is different. If you can't see the difference, then you're muddying. You're obscuring detail. George
I don't
W.
think I am.
Bush. George W. Bush, the Patriot Act, what happened in Florida with the butterfly ballots, there are things to criticize, very, very bad things to criticize, but none of them are, and you're really lacking perspective if you disagree with this, the eradication of our democracy. The difference between America pre and post George Bush was significant, but it was not like us turning into Turkmenistan. Like, there is a incredible, like, threat, a weapon still on the table here. And at this point, considering the fact that they seem fully willing to use it, I mean, they're shouting from the rooftops they want to use it, it's not really a matter of strategy. We just can't let them win. Even if the Democratic Party remains weak, enfeebled, crippled, ineffective,
problem is-
hypocritical, inconsistent.
The problem is knowing that that's their ambition. Aren't we just pushing a time bomb a little further out?
If
like-
it further out is better than it now. Further out, a lot
I
of
mean,
stuff could
but-
happen. The Republican Party could collapse in on itself. Right now, it's having
That's
massive
not-
It's having massive funding issues. It's getting clearer and clearer with the past two elections, the midterms in 2023, that Republicans are
I hope it collapses in on itself. That would have been. Wait, I gotta ask. Maybe that's a silly question. Maybe I just don't understand American freedom enough to ask this question, but if there's a party that just openly advocates for the eradication of democracy, then, and forgive me for asking such a ignorant question, why has the party not been delegalized? Does free speech in the US extend to saying when we get to power we're gonna dismantle democracy? Is that like a super big free speech thing? Can anybody enlighten me here on this? Is there anyone? Is there any volunteers? Anybody? Anyone? How is the Republican Party still legal? Wait, your answer, Yepers, was to what? What are you? I don't get it. What are you responding to? Are you saying yes, it's a free speech thing, or yes, they should be? So freedom of speech includes in the US a party running for office and saying once we get to office we're gonna dismantle democracy. Is that correct?
doing worse on
That's-
social issues than they used to. Over time, the Republican Party might
Probably
collapse
just
for funding
strengthening
issues.
their resolve to get rid of democracy, though, right?
Well, if they can have
That feels like a really weird thing to make into a freedom of speech issue, you know? I don't even think this should be treated as a freedom of speech topic. Maybe I'm just silly. They are dismantling the system the legal way. Are you saying that the US freedom of speech allows for a dismantling of democracy in the legal way? Should a legal way to dismantle democracy be allowed? Is my question, I guess. Should it be allowed? Yes or no, chat? Should a legal way to dismantle democracy be allowed? My sincerest question ever asked.
as much resolve as they want. If they lose their elections, they can keep their resolve and take it back to the losers' field.
But they're not going to lose forever is the problem. I mean, we've seen that Americans,
you can't
whatever
talk-
goes on, Americans seem to go back and forth. I mean, right now, even after seeing that Trump does have these ambitions,
I'm not American, but my understanding is that as long as you do not make direct call for violence, whatever you say is okay. But that's stupid. It shouldn't be allowed to dismantle a democracy, however the issues arises, how we would enforce the anti-democratic legal dissolution. Well, for one, you would not allow political parties that openly call for it. It should not be parties that openly say they will dismantle democracy should not be allowed to exist, in my opinion. I'll be honest, I don't know how to host. Okay. No, I don't.
a considerable amount of Americans are still considering voting for him.
You can't keep appealing to inevitability while also saying you hope for a better future. You can't. Those two things
Well, that's the thing is,
can't
like,
Well, I'm
exist
appealing-
simultaneously.
I'm
but
appealing to
what I'm saying is,
inevitability.
I think that if we're going
Oh, now it's getting into now it's becoming a debate.
to ensure that better future, we have to be more aggressive against them.
I'm
it can't just
appealing
be
to-
like, it can't just be the tepid messaging of Joe Biden that's like, hey, Jack, I'm going to restore democracy, and I'm basically the most milquetoast politician you could conceive of, and I'm not aggressive against these policies, and I'm doing so unimpressively that America actually
You're almost
wants-
saying like
Republicans would probably say that the founding fathers would want them to dismantle it if the system in its current state doesn't serve the people. Silent majority nonsense. But they wouldn't. That's silly.
helping of Donald Trump.
I think I get what you're saying. You're saying like if we're talking about elections, what if they just say, well, having an election even before they get into power? I think that's what you're saying. Like, so if it's inevitable that they're trying to push the country towards like a fascistic state or something, or totalitarian state or whatever, that if it's too weak to manage to stop it at the polls, I mean, like maybe you can have that. Maybe you have a weak Democratic Party, but that just gets overthrown.
So what you're essentially arguing is like, let the fascists win because they're going to win anyway. And I just don't think that's true. Well,
That
you,
is
you,
not-
you,
that-
no,
that's
no, no,
not
you're,
my
no,
argument.
no, 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 wait, please, please,
No, I
please.
think this
No,
is
no,
a
no,
better
please, please,
strategy.
please.
No. Yes. The problem is how it is managed. In Germany, the Constitutional Court famously didn't ban the NPD because they're not relevant, i.e. not as all-powerful of a threat. Now, the AFD is too powerful to be banned. So if you say parties like that should be banned, you also in a double bind if the system is hesitant. Well, the system shouldn't be hesitant.
Please,
Let
please,
him-
please,
let
please,
him-
please,
Let him
please,
go ahead,
please.
let him go ahead.
The thing-
Fundamentally, your argument is that the Democrat. So no matter what,
That's the thing. The system should not be hesitant in these cases.
your
There should be very strict rules about parties that want to dismantle democracy.
proposition here enables their victory, at least temporarily. because either you're arguing that their victory is inevitable over the weak Democratic Party, or that we don't vote for them,
What is
we vote for
possible?
something else.
You understand
Under what
I'm saying?
like under what circumstance exactly do the Republicans not win ever under your scenario?
I mean, there's no scenario in either world where they don't win ever.
I mean, yeah, statistically, no, but you talked earlier about appealing to inevitability. There's a couple of points that you made that I want to talk about, but I appeal to inevitability if we continue doing the zero-sum dance of lesser of two evilism at the polls.
But it's not zero sum.
we
Things have
just-
gotten better.
And things have gotten worse.
You keep referring to like the state of the
Yes.
economy. The state of the
Yes.
economy is not a product of deliberate policy decisions that you can trace to this administration. We're not sacrificing
I
some
can't?
good for. Please let me know. What has Joe Biden done that has led to the current state of affairs economically?
I mean, the infrastructure package was a giant giveaway to corporations. It was a compromise on the compromise. It was basically Joe Manchin's infrastructure
Yeah, because
package.
he couldn't get anything better put through. Are you suggesting
He can't.
Republicans
He
would have done
can't. He
better?
can't. See, this is what I reject. I reject this politics of defeatism.
No, stop. No. This it's nonsensical. You
He
can't
could.
just
Well,
argue
there's a
that because
contradiction at the
you
heart of this
can't
because we're
you
expected to
can't
believe
just
that Joe
argue.
Biden is powerless in the presidency,
You-
but Donald Trump will have infinite power in the
No. You
presidency.
can't just argue that because you don't like a thing that happened that it could have been better. We all saw how long and
I mean,
grueling
that's true. You can't do that. Yeah, it should be in a country's constitution.
and painful the process was of getting literally any kind of economic reform put through Manchin, with the Senate majority being what it was. We all saw, if there was some like super like Hadouken special trick that could have been pulled
Hadouken.
off there to make that better, and I'm not saying it went
Oh my
perfectly,
I'm not
God.
but the
sending some
idea
goons to
that it was
fucking
some kind of like
threaten action. Like,
abstemious.
how about fucking showing up and being
What
like,
a lovely Street Fighter reference. Hadouken. Or I get it. Hadouken. Hadouken. Wave fist.
"Hey, Manchin, vote our way, or we're
So
gonna
no,
bust
yeah.
you."
this is
Jump
like
on his
this is a
boat.
very simplistic understanding of how these political processes work.
No,
Sometimes
it isn't. This is
no,
You simpletons. You simpletons. With your simplistic understanding of how these processes work.
historical
no, it
understanding of how
is.
these political.
it
Do
no,
you know-
it is.
do you know-
You
Historical understanding. Get it? Because they're old. Because they lived through history. So they have historical understanding. I'm cringing right now. We're super old, Vouch. We have a historical understanding at this point. We're historical relics. God. This is such weird line of argumentation. We've got historical understanding. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. Oh my lordy.
you are literally saying that a good thing that happened that had to be squeezed through with the greatest
Oh my god.
amount of compromise possible. That could have
Mhm.
just been done better if only Biden had just
I can't get over it. We've got historical understanding. That's funny. No, that's funny. You're funny.
threatened Manchin.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Okay, what? How about A? Because the kind of people who are hardliners for Biden and his progressive policies are not the kind of people who vote for Manchin. B, Manchin is the only Democrat who could win in his section of West Virginia. C, Manchin already seems to be on his way out with regards to direct collaboration with the Democratic Party. And D, it would have been optically horrible if Manchin, who would not have been threatened in his electoral viability as a consequence of this, would have just come out and say he was threatened and bullied by the president into accepting his
E,
anti-coal big government
And,
agenda.
and people would have called him a pussy.
No, that's maybe on Twitter. In real life, that's not how
Yeah.
these things happen. Why would Manchin ever cede to these? What can Biden actually offer Manchin?
Okay, so let me give you an example.
Non-broken kneecap.
And I'm and
That-
by
but
the
like
way,
a real
I
answer,
just-
though.
Let me give you. Yeah, okay.
that
Let
is
me-
my
let-
real answer.
That's not a real answer.
My
It is.
answer. My
It's not,
answer
no,
is
it's not this. You can't disengage from how politics functions, then get indignant when the outcomes that you arrive at aren't what you wanted. Complicated politics remain complicated even if you approach them with a hammer. We're dealing with a difficult situation nationwide. This is like a very complicated time to be involved in politics. We can't do this like, well, I want things to be better, so like, you know, whatever, they're going to win anyway. The Democrats are weak, so the Republicans are going to win anyway. Like we have to be very
name for me a
thoughtful and
simple
considerate.
time in politics.
I'm sorry?
Name for me a simple time in American politics.
Compared to what we're dealing with right now, where there's like massive breaking news almost every other day with stuff like felony charges against the former president, or like an ongoing genocide, or like the fentanyl crisis. There are so many things now that are more escalated than they were
that does
before.
seem actually pretty standard issue. I mean, other than
Compared to like the
coming up on
Clinton
charges.
presidency or even the Bush presidency, things are moving so quickly these days. We're at a breaking point. We're at the cusp of a decision that this country is going to have to make about whether or not we accept imperfect democracy or fascism. And at the moment, right now, as a consequence of failures within the GOP, people are trending towards us. They're doing worse with every successive election. We can't give up now. Maybe if we draw things out a little further, maybe the Dems stay annoying, but maybe the Republicans realize they can no longer win elections if they continue to go down this crazy MAGA fascist road, and they have to dial things back a bit. And maybe the threat level gets toned down, the heat gets turned down, and we have the room to breathe again, to make demands and concessions without the fear that our democracy could literally be broken in half with one wrong election result.
I mean, wouldn't that rely on the Republican Party fundamentally becoming a different party than it is now?
It has in the past 20 years. It went from neocon to fascist. If it can go from neocon to fascist, I think we can break them back into being neocons. At the best. I mean, maybe we can make better Republicans.
it's happened throughout. It's happened several times
We
in
can
US
expect
history.
more of the
Parties
Democrats
could
once
change
the Republican
completely.
Party is pushed back from fascism to neocons again.
I mean, it would be a lot easier, I think, to do the whole "I'm going to threaten to vote for a third party"
Because
thing.
I still heard all these arguments when it was still just a neocon party.
They're still true. You should still vote for the lesser evil, to be sure. I don't think that
So then
abstaining
there's
with
no
your vote.
time when we can actually hold the Democrats to a higher standard.
You can't is the thing. You have dreams of doing this, but you can't. Life is suffering. Mostly this. There has
Oh.
never been a point in human history where it
Defeatism.
hasn't been
and
suffering.
they call Paul the Doomer Jesus.
I know.
No, that's
Totally
no.
defeatist.
You have to find joy in it. There will always be the terrible
joy in
choice
the
you have
whip.
to make. Yes. Life is the
Yeah,
whip.
Love
At
it.
no point in human history.
Well, I don't ever want to hear that
please,
I'm a doomer
for-
again.
no,
I don't ever
this
want to
isn't.
hear.
This isn't being a doomer. This is being realistic. There has been no point
Oh.
in human history where
Said
people have
every
had
doomer
the
ever.
luxury of just choosing the political option that made them happy. For most of human history, like 95% of it, and for a majority of people alive today, they don't get a choice. And for
Yeah,
the
I think-
very small portion of people historically that have gotten a choice, it's usually a choice between two lesser evils. And by usually, I mean always. We will never have the luxury to not vote for the lesser evil because electoralism is ultimately about that final say, that final choice.
How about a far lesser evil?
If you
Can we
sure,
vote for that?
then do the groundwork, the media work, the advocacy to
When are we going to
popularize
do
those
that
people.
and stop?
Well, it depends on your
sucking-
democratic system too, because not everyone has the American
Sure,
system.
Bernie Sanders nearly won in the primaries in both 2016 and 2020 as a consequence of a lot of work for decades to legitimize progressive perspectives politically. Now,
And he lost
and-
as a
okay,
direct result of the DNC being
Not everything-
propped up and allowed to run roughshod over the will of the voters.
Not everything happens perfectly and right when you want it. The difference between Bernie Sanders being a front-runner contender in the primaries and what the Democratic Party was like just 20 years before that is massive. The difference, the like people are like, well, he didn't win. Okay, and we're not all rich. We don't have unicorns, you know.
I'm not rich. I'd like to be rich.
Bernie Sanders, it would have been nice if he had won, but the difference between the Clinton years in terms of what was acceptable, what progressive policies could be put forward, what you could say on TV, and 16 years later with Bernie Sanders, remarkable. But when you
Should move things more leftward, that's for sure.
talk over that, when you say, well, he didn't win, you're stamping on that legacy. Real progress takes work. Thousands of people
True. Oh.
broken bodies, blood, effort, sweat, tears, and a lot of suffering. But eventually, maybe you get it, and the
I
victory
get
is
it.
worth all the suffering before, all the work that it takes to end slavery or to legalize gay marriage. And it takes decades and a lot of people's misery. But when you get there, it's worth it. Union workers died to give us the weekend. Maybe we
Yeah,
die
yeah,
to
and
give
we've-
2050 a better Democrat. But
and
we
we've kind of
have
silently-
to work.
Let's talk about workers for a second, because we've silently, in repayment for the blood, sweat, and tears that workers shed on the line, we've kind of silently, fecklessly, with a just insurmountably cringy shrugged off the economic degradation that's happened in this country. All of their hard-won gains in the labor space have been given back. The company town is back. The robber baron is back. The unaccountable giant faceless multinational is back, Vosh. We've given it all back in favor of this weak, limp-wristed, feckless, defeatist shit.
What are you referring to? Reagan?
Damn.
What do you mean? What am I referring
you
to? I'm
say
referring
this
to Reagan
weak,
and every
feckless-
president after him.
Okay, so I agree that labor rights have gone down with time. Right now, they're seeing a resurgence in large part because we have a president who's not entirely hostile to workers' rights. Because we have an umbrella of safety, Biden's presidency, union organizers, the people who work at the NLRB, the Department of Labor, they've had the ability to go out there and make changes that have meaningfully improved the lives of millions of workers with the potential to do even more down the line. But just as the victory of Biden has given us space for our worker victories, Trump's victory back in 2016 has given them space for their defeats, because the Supreme Court has, in that same time period, using their power that they were given by Trump's presidency, waged a war against workers, ruling time and time again against their rights, their efforts, their advocacy. The difference is clear. In the systems where Democrats rule, we at least have space to speak. In the systems where Republicans rule, we don't even have that. The difference is meaningful. It doesn't mean we're ever going to stop fighting, but we can at least tilt the battlefield to our side.
Yeah, I think that we need more than a tilt.
Fake Calico Parker, thank you so much for the $15. Here you go, meanie. Why am I a meanie? What have I done? What have I done to be called a meanie? Please explain. What have I done? I'm not a meanie. I'm very nice, actually. I try. I do my best. I do my best to be nice. Meanie. You call me meanie.
Then, but you don't get you can't keep rejecting reality in favor of an imaginary, hypothetical, better alternative that doesn't exist.
So
Then why even be a
don't reject reality. I'm hungry and upset, so I'm lashing out at nice people. Thank you. Thank you for that. Eat something. I keep interacting with hungry people lately. It's actually quite interesting.
socialist, just be a Democrat?
Because socialists are the ones who make Democrats do the occasional good things that they do.
By doing what? By putting forth wild ideas that are improbable at the time that slowly but surely become common wisdom.
And
right?
how do you get those ideas realized? You
You
fight for
fight.
them. You
Yeah,
fight,
right.
yes, but you don't just turn your back on the entire political process. Bernie Sanders
See,
single-handedly
hold
kicked
on.
off.
Yeah, but I'm tired of you saying that is my position. I don't know who you're arguing against, but my position is not to say fuck it to the political process. My position is to say fuck it to the duopoly.
That's the political process.
Duopoly. I mean, that's the process in the US right now. There's no food. Order! Order food! Oh my god. Order food from Uber Eats or something. Order food.
Right. In your mind, that's all the politicking that can be done.
No, I'm arguing the opposite. You're the one who's saying this is the venue through which you have to make your change. I'm the one who's saying your vote every 4 years should be simple and thoughtless. The actual work is in the advocacy you do between those elections. That's where I think change happens. That's where it does happen. You're the one who's arguing that you have to make this big grandstanding ideological defiance of the two-party duopoly at the polls. And I don't think, I mean, you can. I don't think anything good comes from it. In fact, I think it
I
makes...
mean, just vote at the polls and do whatever different work you want outside of the voting. Uber Eats is expensive. Have you learned nothing from the Zan DJ Muldra? What? Have I? Is it that expensive in the US? It's not that expensive in Poland.
Work harder for the people who actually do that work for the past 4 years. Because you don't provide them that space, that umbrella. All the people doing that NLRB work, they couldn't do it if Trump had won in 2020. They're only able to do these positive things because they were given that space. So we build the umbrella, we build the shield, but the real work, the difficult work, it is a lot of suffering. A lot of people spend their entire lives doing local politics in like fringe Midwestern towns and they die without seeing any positive change. But that's the nature.
They should serve donuts at the polling stations. I think that could save democracy. You know what the funny thing is? During the latest elections in Poland, the election time sort of stretched out to extremely late hours in the night. Like in some towns or cities, in some cities, you get like people voted till 3 a.m. So in one city, a local pizza place went to the people voting at 3 a.m. and served them hot pizza. Hot pizza was given to people that went to the booths at 3 a.m. That's funny. That's pretty interesting. You know? And also $30 for getting food delivered is super expensive. In Poland, it's like a fixed fee. In Poland, it's like a fixed fee. Did you get your pizza / tiramisu? Yes. I got KFC recently, but that's
nature of politics. That's just living, right? I mean, that's always how it has been. If anything, it's better now than it used to be, because it used to be that the people who dared to speak up against the current regime were just offhandedly killed. At least now people get to live through their ineffectiveness, and sometimes we actually do get positive outcomes. I think there's a lot of value to fight for here. I'm not doomer about it. I just think that in the specific venue of like the electoral system and the leader you choose at the end of the process, there's not that much wiggle room. In this case, there's none, because of the whole fascism bit.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of fascism.
I think that we need to immediately divest ourselves from the two-party system.
Immediately. We need to immediately build a huge, massive third party. That's what we have to do immediately. And thus dismantle the duopoly. True. True and real, and moreover, realistic.
And immediately
Okay, that was funny. That was a funny reaction. I want to see it again.
come up with a better way of doing things, a third system, and to immediately.
The sigh of disappointment. So we need to dismantle the duopoly and do things better. Thank you. Thank you for coming to my talk.
Divest ourselves from the two-party system and immediately come up with a better way of doing things. A third party is only ineffectual because largely because the people whose votes would help it believe that, oh, there's no point in doing it, so whatever. And that kind of seems like what you're preaching here.
You're the one making that argument.
True, Vosh. Can't you just build a third party that will dismantle the duopoly? Start a party, Vosh. Come on, don't be a coward. Don't be a coward, Vosh. Start a party. You can do it today. Register a party. Is it easy to register a party in the US? How difficult is it to register a party in the US?
For voting for Biden.
let's not waste any of our time trying to create a new workers' party in this country because it's just pointless anyway.
Or
Democrats
just trying to push the Democratic Party left from where it is.
That's
or not even necessarily left, but just like, hey, these things you guys promise, why don't you actually try to do them?
That's happening.
And why don't you? I mean, very ineffectually, in my opinion.
Yeah, because you have to pay attention to the details. Recently, the White House has been flustering on its position with regards to Israel's support of the genocide going on in the Gaza Strip because they've been.
I mean, Reagan ended that
surprised.
shit with a phone call in his administration. Biden could do the same.
Yeah, I'm
You
aware.
prop up Israel. All Biden would have to do is be like, "Hey, knock that shit off," and they would stop.
I'm not arguing that Biden is doing great here. I'm saying that real work is being
Well, this is
done
not
at
about
every
Biden.
level.
This is about the complexity issue. Because I think you say I'm oversimplifying. I think you're overcomplicating. Because I think that
What is Vosh overcomplicating? What exactly is Vosh overcomplicating here? Registering a party is relatively easy. The problem is actually getting the votes to get elected or even appearing on ballots. But Vosh has 461 subs, so it should be easy for Vosh to. It should be relatively easy for Vosh to galvanize a huge voter base. No, look, Vosh is big, so no problem. You're being a doomer about this. You're being a doomer about this, and I don't like it that you're acting this way. Paul Span for democracy. Don't vote for Democrats to get rid of first past to post free, huh? For sandworms, 5 profit. True.
a tire iron can do the job sometimes.
No,
I think you
nobody
could go
is
to Joe
tire
Biden,
ironing.
You could go to
anybody's
Joe
needs.
Manchin and threaten his ass.
No, you can't
and
do
say,
that.
like, hey, you do like
What you're
the guy,
you're speaking out of
look how quickly-
frustration.
Look
with
how
the,
quickly Joe Manchin folded, dude. Look how
Take the mouse icon out of DJ's face, by the way. It's annoying. It's annoying me. It's triggering me.
quickly he folded the minute a Republican challenger rose up. Joe Manchin's like, I'm not going to bother seeking re-election. And then we're
He's overcomplicating because he doesn't say bad person bad. He isn't watching politics as a Hollywood movie. I mean, the bad person is bad. It's just that there's a far worse person. So,
we're told like, oh, he was
Jim
such a valuable
Justice, yeah.
Democrat.
because no
Who else is
Democrat
gonna get
could have.
elected with a D next to their name there? It's like, well, it doesn't matter if he's got a D next to his name if when he's needed the most, he just says, well, sayonara, motherfuckers, see ya.
Yeah, I'm not saying that Joe Manchin is a great ally, but what you're suggesting, I assume, is to literally like threaten him into being a better Democrat. It doesn't.
Can I give you two historical
no, just threaten
examples?
him to vote our
do
way out.
historical examples. I want to hear the historical examples.
not
I
go-
want to give you
issue.
two.
I
do
wanna
not
give
go
you
back
two
100. If you no, if you genuinely believe that the solution to like a gridlock in the Senate would have been the actual literal threatening of someone there,
I want to hear the historical examples. Go on.
you would create impeachment and presidential scandals that would blanket the remainder of the presidency and lock
I
the
don't think if you went about it right.
I
I
mean,
don't
only if
think
you
if
get
you went
caught,
about it
right?
right. Yeah.
Pretty
See,
sure a
here's-
lot of presidents have used their muscle in some
Let
interesting
me-
ways.
let
So
me give
what
you
if he doesn't
two-
have any
hold on,
leverage?
Hold on. Let me give you two historical examples where this very
There
tactic
you go. 2 historical examples from Paul's ego.
has been used and worked.
Let's go. I want to hear the historical examples.
Lincoln used it. He had a whole bunch of operatives who were paying off people left and right, threatening people with investigation, promising promotions within his administration, and he managed to get slavery abolished.
what do you think? Okay, well, there was a civil war there as well. What do you think he could have offered Manchin?
Okay, so let me give you the second example because that's kind of the answer. LBJ. Now, I don't want anybody saying that I'm making excuses for the Johnson administration. He was a piece of shit. He's got the blood of Southeast Asia up to his elbows on his hands. You can't rehabilitate his image. But one thing you can say about LBJ
Oh boy.
was he knew how to strong arm a motherfucker. He got on the phone with the FBI and said, hey, I want you to look into, and I want you to just imagine a world where Joe Biden did this. Hey, I want you to look into Joe Manchin's business practices. I want you to take a nice hard look at what he's done. I want you to find some tax evasion. I want you to find some unfair hiring practices. I want you to find some illegal
Okay.
offshoring. I want you to find the dirt on Manchin.
Okay, do you
And
think
then you
there's-
get, and then hold on. Imagine that it's
Hold on. I'm not done.
not a weak, feckless dementia patient sitting in the chair, but a actual politician.
do you
And he looks Joe Manchin in the eye and he says, "Hey, mother, I'm about to bring you up on 5 federal tax charges. Guess how you're gonna vote? What is Joe Manchin gonna do? Is he gonna run to the the media and say like, "Oh, I've been dodging taxes for 20 years and Biden threatened me"?
there's so many things wrong with what you're suggesting here that I don't even want to go into all of them. I'm
Okay,
not
give it to
arguing
me.
against the strong arming of people when necessary, but first of all, what you're describing, if found out, and it would be found out because it's pretty difficult to keep secrets these days, would be one of the largest presidential scandals in history. It would also give the Republicans legitimate ammunition to attack
my
Biden, not
God.
only on impeachment grounds, but also on the idea that he doesn't actually believe in the diversity of thought within his own party because he's willing to go after people who are supposedly moderate like Joe Manchin. This would potentially...
Didn't
doesn't
Trump's administration kind of demonstrate that you can get away with a lot if you're just brazen and ballsy about it?
Yes, but the difference is the kinds of people who vote for Trump are Trump voters, and the kinds of people who vote for Biden aren't Trump voters. You can
Yeah, well, I bet you a
you
lot
can
of
get
those
away with
non-voters that show
fascist
up
shit
to
when
vote
you're
for
a fascist.
Democrats does borderline illegal and corrupt stuff. Republicans, well, if they can do it, true.
President that does stuff like that.
No, no. You can get away with doing fascist shit when you're a fascist with voters who will vote for you for being a fascist. When you're a milquetoast liberal moderate like Joe Biden, your room
That's
of
what I'm saying.
permissible...
I'm saying I don't want that.
and that's tough. So fight for 50 more years, and maybe we die having seen something better.
No, thanks. I'd rather have it sooner than 50.
Right.
fucking years.
That's because you're impetuous, like a child. You don't understand.
True and real, actually. You to work and not expect results.
And how-
like during the Polish People's Republic, when the underground opposition to the quote-unquote communist government formed, nobody expected the Polish People's Republic government to fall in their lifetime. Nobody expected that. Everybody expected it to, like, I don't know, the future generations to pick up the fight or something. It's documented that it's well documented that none of them expected to win within their lifetime. The fact that they did sort of win within their lifetime was just like a little miracle. But usually when people invest their lives in certain types of work, certain types of activism, certain types of political action, they don't expect to get quick results. They don't expect to just win. They expect to sort of work towards a long-term goal. Because if you think about it, it's very telling, right? If your attitude is, well, if I can't win, then there is no point. Like that's not a good attitude to have. That if you can't get what you want within your lifetime, then suddenly in your eyes, the act of fighting for it is what, not worth it anymore? That's not how that should work.
Yes.
Listen,
all
everything
true.
good, the air you breathe
True.
and the water you drink, everything, the regulations that allow us to drink clean water, unleaded gasoline, none of this happens as quickly as anyone wants it to. People have died seeing their dreams gone unachieved and then had other people of the next generation take up the cause
Yeah.
and also fail and then continue from that point.
I
The
mean, that is the expectations of the people that fight for it. That the next generation will take up the thing and they will fight for it.
very first abolitionists were in the 1600s. There were people who died in the Revolutionary War on the assumption the slaves would be freed after the British were
Yeah, and I'm
kicked
sure
out.
here's the thing. I'm sure a lot of those abolitionists were impetuous assholes that wanted slavery done now.
You're arguing
So
that
maybe it
your
takes that kind of
argument would be
motherfucker-
for them to
Maybe you
give
gotta
up.
shoot for the fucking moon to even just like get a like, you know, a 10-pointer, you know?
Your argument is
Or
that they
2-point,
should have
3-pointer.
divested
Should
themselves
use
from the
Hello, Arkyle. That's right, we're giggling.
political
terms. I don't know fucking
process.
sports.
Like, they fought legislatively for the abolition of slavery for decades and decades without success. Through your argument, it would be like, oh, I've been at this for, I don't know, 10 years and it hasn't worked out. I should just give up. But it was only because of the...
I'm not saying give up at all. I'm saying
Yeah,
push as hard as you fucking possibly can. It's the exact opposite of give up. I think your position is more akin to give up.
You are
and just
literally
things
letting
the way they are.
the fascist win, even though his victory will make it more difficult for the actual advocates to do what they need to do to make the world a better place.
How am I letting the fascist win?
If you don't vote for Biden, that's one less
I
vote
live
for
in
Biden.
California. I could vote for Mickey Mouse. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I live in a deep red state where my vote also really doesn't matter.
Unless you're in about 8 states and certain districts within those states are quote unquote fragile, flawed democracy, your vote doesn't count.
Florida
anyway.
used to be a swing state, and people giving up because they're already majority in the state is how you lose solid blue states. And we'll never get how can you complain about the Democrats being bad in Louisiana when you're saying, oh, it doesn't matter if I vote for Dems here, I'm in a far red state. That's what they think. They think, oh, I'll give up on it because they're far right. You're saying, oh,
Just give up. Just don't. I don't know. I think Vosh said it best in that intro into the debate. Vote, and between the elections, do the work. Right?
who cares
not in
because it's far
Louisiana
right?
anymore.
Well, yeah, that's
Oh,
not
well,
him.
okay.
And
I'm still in a red state.
I did vote, by the way.
Okay,
So just so you know.
so yeah, so the logic is the same. This isn't about, like, we're talking about one day of work, not even work, every
Work. Going to a place, showing your ID or whatever it is that you do in the US, taking a piece of paper, putting an X on it, and throwing it into a box. Hard work. Sweating work.
4 years.
Of course, there are problems with this. Like, I'm not sure if there's a designated free day for voting in the US, which makes it actually pretty difficult for some people to vote because they have to have a free day at work, and that's not always possible. But that's a whole different discussion, isn't it? A lot of anti-voting people are just accelerationists who don't want to admit it. True. There's no solution in our lifetime, and that's it. I mean, we have to accept that in a lot of cases there won't be solutions in our lifetime. Like, we need to be able to accept that some fights are worth fighting, even if we won't see results in our lifetimes. My donut idea will work, though. I think so. I do love donuts, so I do love your idea as well.
You show up. It doesn't matter whether or not you think it does anything. It's a very simple civic process.
Let me just I want to just clarify this really quick. I have every intention to vote in the election. I just don't know if I'm going to vote for Biden.
Who would you vote for if not Biden?
I don't know. I'm undecided.
Well, it's either Trump or throwing the vote.
What the fuck? I'm undecided. I don't know. I don't know. My idea: free holiday for voting, $50 if you vote, free donut. True.
Vote away. So I guess between those
I
two
guess
options,
I might choose to quote unquote throw my vote away then.
which is like not voting, as far as I'm concerned. Third party votes are not voting, as far as I'm
Your
concerned.
voting isn't voting, TJ. No true
Cool.
voting.
I mean, yeah, literally, yes, correct. If you vote for someone who will 1,000,000,000% not win, then you're basically not. Yeah, that's right. I'm gonna back Vouch here, even though technically speaking, people are voting when doing it. It's for all intents and purposes not voting. Yeah.
Yeah, that dude.
I mean, it's a two-party system. I didn't make it that way. It is that way. We have to acknowledge
you kind
that.
of
It's that
are
way because of the
perpetuating that,
compl-
though.
Yeah,
You're perpetuating that. What's the alternative? Is Vosh supposed to unironically register a party? The Vosh party? It's a it's a three-party system now. It's the Democrats, the Republicans, and the Vosh party. Let's go. Let's make this a reality. Join the Vosh party.
It's that way because
Vote for the Voshites.
of the complicity of people like you.
No, it
And
is that way
for-
because
for
mathematically,
generations, yeah.
the system we have incentivizes that
There's
outcome.
actually other countries that don't use first past the post that still have robust third and fourth parties.
And fifth and sixth.
You mean
and
they
seventh
do
and
use
eighth.
first past
Yeah,
the post?
coalition. You're talking about coalition.
Yeah, there are different rules for voting.
Wait, what did he?
Coalition. You're talking about coalition.
Yeah, there are different
Okay.
rules for voting in different countries that procure different outcomes when it comes to what you actually.
I mean, okay, there are different things in different countries, but the problem is the US is not a different country. The US is the US, and the US has a situation that it has. You cannot wish away the current situation in the US by just saying that it's different in different countries. Yes, it's different in different countries because those are different countries and there's, their systems sort of formed a different way. But you cannot just overnight somehow magically produce X different parties that will form magical coalitions and just, you cannot do it. You just can't. If it would have been that easy, then why just form a party, Vosh? Let's see. You're blaming Vosh for the existence of first past the post and the Verger's Law. So childish. Well, they are not like you want to have a political superhero. That's what I meant by the Hollywood politics watching mentality.
They have to deal with. Mind you, the absence of a two-party system has not made things any less f***ed in England. Like,
I agree with that.
yeah, like so there.
Sure.
The problems that we're facing here, like
I mean,
the,
they are
the
a little
two-party
less fucking
duopoly.
England, right? They've got a national
No,
health.
they're pretty
plan.
fucked right now.
They're pretty screwed up.
I mean, not if they
They're
get
trying
cancer.
they're trying to privatize healthcare.
If I get a cancer diagnosis, I'd rather be f***ed over
Yeah, but
there than
that's-
f***ed over
That's,
here.
Sure.
That's in the process of being rolled back.
In the
so.
process, but let's
It's
not
like
be
they
let's
have
not
some
lie
good
about our
stuff
level
that's
here.
like a holdover from a bygone era. Like the current political climate of the UK is horrible.
Incidentally, the reason the NHS is getting privatized is because people let the Tories win too many times. As a consequence, even though
Yeah, they've won a lot of elections over there.
yeah, even though the Labour Party is not the glorious socialist vanguard party that might have once been 120 years ago, there's still a meaningful difference between allowing conservatives to tear apart
True. They've walked into that England example.
your systems and allowing liberals to preside over them competently.
See, I mean, but the problem is that if conservatives are running better campaigns and getting more people to vote for them, then that's how it is. Like, why is the onus always on like the non-voter or the third party voter to fix the problems for the Democratic? Like, bail us out again. It's like, do something for me then. Do
They do.
anything for me and I will. If Joe Biden did one thing that I actually was impressed by,
NLRB rulings, was that
I'd
not
vote for him.
the NLRB rulings? Was that not the Inflation
I
Reduction
got him a
Act?
little bit of the way there.
The Inflation
We
Reduction
gave him
Act?
props. We were on our show saying, yeah, good job.
Him going
You know,
to
this
the
is like-
UAW.
That's why my chances of voting for Biden currently sit at 2%
Okay.
because of that.
So the reason they need money is because so either they take money from citizens or they take money
Money.
from corporate donors. I mean, you can decide which one you think is less concerning with regards to where the money's coming from to the Dems. Upholding or withholding civilian donations and having them rely more on corporate donations will not make the Dems more amicable to proletarian interests, for one. But for two, like, the only thing they need to do to be a better candidate for voting than the Republicans is to be better than the Republicans. You don't have to donate. I don't think I've ever donated to the Dems broadly. I've donated to a few candidates specifically.
I've donated to Bernie Sanders, and I know a lot of his
Yeah.
coffers were emptied
I gave
out
money
into
to
the
Bernie.
DNC.
Yeah, even I gave money to Bernie.
Yeah.
So my money that I gave to Bernie, I think some of it did end up going to the Democratic
No,
Party.
money in politics. Citizens United was a disastrous decision.
Oh, a good chunk of what people like us donated to Bernie ended up in Joe Biden's pocket and Hillary Clinton's pocket, respectively.
Of course,
So,
yeah, it did.
Gotta love that
Do something for me. Me first. Is this the mantra of progressive of a progressive? True. Do something for
And
me.
see.
Do something for me and donate. True. Arkel is right. I'm a progressive, and I ask you, do something for me.
We can't
True.
withhold because things
See
aren't.
how smooth that was. See how seamless that transition to me begging for money was.
As nice as we want them to be. Bernie winning still would have been a
Isn't
significant
that the whole
improvement.
point, though?
Like,
Like,
I mean, look, I mean, here's the thing. You think I'm not fundamental. I don't know about Paul's position on this. I don't want to be conflated every time.
Yeah, watch yourself.
And I'm sure he doesn't want to either because our positions are unique from each other's. But as far as I'm concerned, like I don't think vote lesser of two evils is fundamentally faulty. But I just want there to be a little bit, like, I guess for me, it's a matter of degrees. Like, if it's Hitler and 99% Hitler, I honestly don't give a fuck. If it's Hitler and 60% Hitler, okay, maybe we're getting somewhere.
Do you really not think that compared to Donald Trump, Joe Biden is at least 60% Hitler
True.
or less?
I
Well-
mean, yes. Like I don't think it's comparable. Personally, from my outsider Polish perspective, I think Trump is much worse. Like, even if you look at the Ukraine war, like the topic of Ukraine war, there's no contest.
what would a
I don't know.
Palestinian say?
You know, I'd have to go I'd have to really sit down and
Would Trump be that better on Israel than Biden? Are they saying that? Are they actually saying that Trump would have been far better on Israel than Biden?
put it down issue by issue. Look at the
Because the Mexican Trump is 1000% more Hitler than Biden. Right. Trump most likely wouldn't send more aid than Biden. Would have sent more aid than Biden.
cultural impact both ways. Look at the long, like the far-reaching effects of both outcomes. Because I mean, here's the thing, and I've always said this, and I've said this for every president throughout my lifetime. And I know that to a degree it's ignorant and sort of like self-absorbed and stuff like that. So, you know, I'll head that criticism off of the past. I realize it, and I'm not putting 100% stock in this. But like, if you somehow were to cast an enchantment on me where I was incapable of knowing who the president was.
You're not capable of knowing who the president will be. What?
And I could only judge it based on like what's going on in the rest of the country. I don't think I'd ever have realized we were under new management. Like on just a
Really? That tells me a lot. That actually that statement tells me a lot. Okay, now I get it. That doesn't tell me that the administrations are the same. That just tells me that you're unaffected by many people, but you're just unaffected by the things that were far worse under Trump than under Biden. It doesn't mean that the presidencies are the same. That was bad. That was bad.
personal level.
I
You know,
genuinely
maybe that's
think
like white privilege or some shit, but
maybe
I mean, you said it. You said it, not me. Isn't Trump openly saying about banning trans rights? If I were a US citizen, I'm pretty sure I would have felt the difference. Even blind without knowing who's the president currently sitting. I'm pretty sure I would have felt the difference.
I think a lot of that is also because you engage with things, as a lot of people do, I think much to their detriment, from a very high level day-to-day news on a federal level like perspective. And a lot of the stuff that you concern yourself with is also like inseparable from broader economic trends that would have happened under any president. So as a product of that, like the very real, like if you want to know about the differences, don't listen to the news. The news will always sound the way that it does right now, no matter whether or not something good or bad is happening. Listen to somebody on the local level. Listen to somebody who works with administration, somebody who works with local schools, somebody who does legal work, somebody who's like engages directly with like the activists, NLRB, unions, anything. To them, the differences are massive. Right now, the culture of hope for unions in America, for like what's happened with SAG-AFTRA and the UAW, massive surge of hope. What's been happening with Starbucks, like the in terms of like worker advocacy, this is the best that we've been at. This is the best we've been doing in over a half century. Like for you say you can't tell the difference. You talk to people whose job it is to pay attention to the differences, and it's clear as day. Now, to people like, say, the Palestinians, yeah, no, I wouldn't go and ask them to vote for Biden right now. Not just because, you know, they're getting bombed, not an American.
Trump proposed a little Muslim ban. That's true. That is true from certain countries.
But also because I acknowledge that there are going to be kind of common trends of suffering under Biden or Trump or whatever else. I do think Trump would have made it worse, but still, very bad as it is now. But we can't toss that out. I mean, what we have got, what we have done is still worth fighting for and preserving.
I applauded Biden's NLRB ruling, but
Don't groom yourself while doing a talk. Vosh, it's rude to just start grooming yourself. Okay.
let's not over voice the positivity here. There's still a gigantic gaping loophole that hasn't been addressed by the NLRB. I haven't heard much talk about it being addressed by the NLRB. I'm certain Biden has been mum on it, which is the fact that companies can still indefinitely refuse to agree to a contract. There's no
proof Vosh is a cat girl. I mean, true.
There's no like weight over their head to agree to a reasonable contract. There's no litigation process that a union can engage in order to do that. And so there's still a giant loophole for corporations to be able to just dig their heels in, which they will use. And it hasn't been addressed by Biden.
I will dig my heel in. I'm like 99% sure Biden has talked about that before, not that he's done anything about it.
And it probably won't be addressed by Biden. So
I mean, they can strike.
Yeah, well, they can strike, but we've seen that Biden is willing to step in and end those strikes too, right?
He ended one strike because it was right before the midterms, and then he quietly went behind the scenes and tried to get those workers he ended the strike for.
So he f***ed them and then gave them a reach around. Sweet.
Essentially,
at least they got a nut. You know what I mean?
Yes. Well, yeah. Considering the fact that no other president, to my knowledge, has ever done that, at least not since I don't know, like the Roosevelt days, I guess.
By the way, the contract that Biden forced on them was pretty paltry in comparison to what they were asking during the strike. By the way,
yes, because it was not. Yes, I agree. It was not everything that they wanted, but in terms of like, if we're taking a look at like overall good or bad for unions, he has been better for unions than any president in our lifetime by far. The rail strike thing is unfortunate. I'm not defending it, though I do think that he's done more to amend for that than any other president would in his stead. And all the NLRB decisions, the general advocacy for striking, the fact that the NLRB is like more actively involving itself in defending the rights of striking workers, these things are huge. But again, like I feel like right now I'm arguing about like the particular arrangement of confectionaries on a cake when my opponent has served me a slice of shit. Like Donald Trump wouldn't do, you know, some of this stuff a little better and some of it a little worse. He would do none of it, and the stuff he would do would be anti-worker.
Aren't you kind of arguing that you would rather eat a turd that has a dollop of Cool Whip and some little icing rosettes on it than a raw turd? Isn't that kind of like the essence of your position here?
I mean, I'm getting forced to eat one of them is the thing. There can only be one of those. Like I don't have the choice to not do that, and I guess I would.
I mean, you do have the choice to not do it. You've just chosen not to do it.
No, I don't. There will be one president. One
right, but you don't have to actively grab one of the turds and eat it.
No, I don't grab.
Why is this about turds now? Oh my god, that's so disgusting.
president. The
What?
president's
Turd?
voted in by the country. There will be a turd in my mouth.
Stop talking about turds in your mouth. Mm.
Also,
Yeah,
I think
there
the
is definitely
difference.
going to be a turd in your mouth.
I think the difference.
They treat voting like an extension of their personality or like a turd in their mouth. I don't know. That's so weird. Ugh. Thank you for this image.
Difference between the two turds is a lot more significant than what you painted out to be. We're talking about the most pro-union president
All
in
right,
our
so
lifetime versus
It's
Donald
chocolate
Trump.
dipped. It's chocolate.
No, I know. I like.
It's got that shell on
I
it.
entertain these analogies because I'm not exactly like really that much of a Biden fan. But in reality, if you can't see the significant difference between the two, it's because you're ignorant politically. There is a degree of, oh well, aren't they all bourgeois parties anyway? That comes across as woke, when in reality, what you're doing is just waving your hands at 1,000 complexities that people whose job it is to pay attention to this would be able to immediately identify and care about. We're talking life or death differences. This whole shit versus shit with some frosting, reserve that for like the party era back during which Dems and Republicans were basically indistinguishable.
I mean, you invoked the shit with the frosting analogy. That
No,
wasn't mine.
You were the
That
first
was
one. No,
yours.
no, I
No,
said
you
a
said
cake with
rearranging
confectionaries.
and you're served a piece of
We need
shit.
a replay.
I said cake with confectionaries.
Rearranging the confectionaries on a piece of shit.
No,
and
no,
then I took it.
The confectionaries were on a cake versus the shit. I think that Biden, when it comes to union
right.
rights, I think he's the cake.
I mean, I don't know if I'd go there. If the NLRB secures the right for a litigation process for unions to
boy.
force these companies to come to the table and actually gives teeth to the union movement again,
Well,
Then-
they have been. It's
I've done the GBGC thing, armed and standing between pro-LGBT counter protesters and armed drag show in a state that's tried repeatedly to illegalize trans identity, with only the court stalling that down. People who ostensibly are on my side, refusing to vote for a lesser evil, are sheltered and don't realize how they shit on actual activists. True, Nerodia.
better than anything that we've seen before
We only talk about turds in mouths, which makes me really uncomfortable.
in our life.
when a company can just cross its arms in front of its chest and go nuh-uh, labor unions cannot flourish in this country.
Well, that's when the strike happens. But again, this is still better than anything we've seen before.
That's not true. In my lifetime, we've seen better.
Who,
I mean,
which
like, I don't
president
know.
in your lifetime has been better on unions?
In my lifetime, Jimmy Carter.
I
we got
strong
a,
disagree.
We got a dissenter here, a fact checker. For $5, Parker says, fact check, Biden into the railroad strike after the 2022 midterms, not before.
Wait, is that you, fake Alec Kyle Parker? Is that you? Did you give them $5 to fact check them? Was that you, fake Alec Kyle Parker?
Okay.
Uh-oh.
When did he end the strike?
I don't know if
Biden.
that's.
I'm
I don't know if
gonna
that's
go
true or
Google
not.
this
That's
shit.
totally
Not
random
that was a
chatter stuff.
particularly
Was that fake Alec Kyle Parker?
strong excuse to ask an entire rail union, but you know,
Non-voters really give SCAT a bad name. True.
Jimmy Carter destroyed the trucking union.
Wait, why can I not find this? Oh, late November.
You're bad with Google, Vouch.
It looks like, yeah, okay, that would have been after the midterms. My
I
apologies.
don't really think in my lifetime matters much. When I was a kid, both of my parents were blue collar union laborers,
I
and
used to be a kid as well. That's what a coincidence. I used to be a kid as well.
we lived like rich people.
If only they had the privilege of being pro-union today, they could see a lot of hope.
They were vote blue no matter who, Democrat unionists their whole lives. Voted the party line, campaigned, walked the line with other unions.
Based.
And you know what it got them? My parents were lucky to retire. They were lucky to retire.
So
when
you
they
understand how you're like making spurious correlations, right? Whether
How?
like because them voting for Democrats did not make the economy worse.
He was 0 years old during Carter's admin. Center wasn't great on unions either. Carter wasn't great on unions either. Hello, vodka.
Like,
Yes,
do
it
you
did.
think they? No, okay, wait, I'm sorry. So which Republicans could they have voted for that would have made the economy better by their retirement date?
Which president destroyed Glass-Steagall again?
No, I'm
I need
asking
my- I need my
which
memory
Republicans should have won. I specifically
16
want to.
viewers, very nice. Welcome, welcome everybody. 17, welcome, welcome, one and all. We will do a lot of interesting things today. I can promise you that. It's a promise from me to you.
To know if you think that they
I
had
don't.
a worse
why
economic
are you forcing
outlook,
me in?
because you are saying that their bad economic outcomes
Yes.
were a product of them
Yes.
voting Democrat, and I want to know.
Cyclically.
That's right. We have 1,000 subs. I am thinking of doing a 1,000 sub special.
Okay, so I want to know which Republicans winning would have made the economy better.
I didn't say that. You're trying to force me into a conclusion I didn't make. I didn't say the Republicans would have made the economy better. I said the act of voting cyclically for nothing.
I would have I would have made the economy better. Vote me in.
But Democrats, because they're the
He
ones
can follow his own logic.
that show up to a labor rally now and again, oversaw the same jobs that my mom.
So I have to say I'm happy for you that your channel is growing. Thank you. We have been experiencing a big growth thing, which makes me happy.
The same job that
Mostly 2024. True.
my mom worked and retired on, and bought houses on. The people that work that same
My mom used to work as well, so that's another thing we have in common.
job at that same factory in my hometown.
If Chen can run, then Lucy can run too. True. You just have to donate more so that I can go to the US and run. There you go. Please donate for my US campaign. Donate so that I have enough money to, first of all, go to the US. Second of all, finance my presidential campaign. And third of all, for rent or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Did that pitch work? Are you feeling like donating now?
Can barely afford the rent on a 2-bedroom apartment.
This
now.
is happening everywhere right now.
Yes,
Yes. How
Yeah.
is this the Democrats?
because the Democrats have done nothing to shore it up.
Okay, so what would Republicans have done better?
I'm not saying they would have done it better. I'm
Then-
saying that the people that are supposedly the best choice for me
They are the best choice. for you.
presided during their time that they had, which was substantial.
Yeah, it's not supposedly, they are. If a bad thing would have happened in both cases, you can't blame the better option for the bad thing that happened if it would have happened anyway. I mean, at that point, you might as well be blaming them for what?
I mean, it
the
just
wind?
doesn't. It just
They
like seems like
provided
there's a
no
lot of
pushback.
issues where there's not really much of a choice. Like
There isn't a
Israel,
choice.
On Israel, where's our choice?
You don't get it.
On
I also tend to get mad. So yes, LMAO says nomadic.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's so many issues where there is no choice whatsoever, and we're just supposed to accept that.
Well-
election cycle after election cycle, and if we try to change
Don't.
it,
I know. I'm not
No,
saying don't
the
accept
moment we
it.
try to change it, it's like no. You gotta just go along with it.
I'm
It's
not
the
saying
best we
don't-
can fucking possibly do.
I'm not
It's the
saying you
best we
have
can
to
do.
accept it. There are plenty of things you can do with
And
regards to advocacy
want-
and political pressure.
I wanna
I'm
ask you a
saying
question
no.
about-
Again, no. Please, again,
I want
this
to
is
change. the
this is
subject.
this is
Please.
tired of
this
it.
is political engagement. Okay, there are
Okay.
plenty of things that you can do to change the duopoly and change what is politically
All right,
acceptable.
lay it out for me.
It's-
Lay out the change. How
it's
do I change
called
the duopoly?
everything other than who you vote for on election
Specifically,
day.
what is it?
Advocacy, pushing funding, arguing with media
I already do
organizations. Go to,
advocacy.
no, hold on. Go to local town hall meetings. Write letters to your local Congress people. Write letters to local people, like mayors, town commissioners, even like local city planning boards. That can do a surprising amount of good. Hey, in the past decade or so, we've seen a recent rise in legitimately
That is what I do when I live in the US. I write to my local mayors and stuff. That's true. Vosh is correct. And I could do it again if you donate some money.
progressive politicians. Right now, yes,
I swear I'm so gonna I'm so gonna turn on super chats. I'm gonna turn on monetization today. I can do it now. Why have I not turned monetization on yet? I'm not very smart, am I?
Our government may be broadly pro-Israeli, but America is more pro-Palestine than ever before. And why? Did that just happen out of nowhere? Did that just happen out of the ether? No, it's because
Do it.
people
I will.
worked, and they've been
If I do it, will you super chat?
working for longer than any of us have been alive. There have been Palestinian advocates who for decades have had their cries for justice met with deaf ears. For decades, and only now will people listen. And yesterday, just yesterday, John Oliver,
It
a
doesn't really-
generally
Oh no, we've waited. We're partners now. I've got the. I'm gonna show you actually. We've reached partner. It's done. We've reached partner already. I'm gonna send you the screenshot. Yeah. And we just have to do a few more. Now I have, now I have to do a few more things, and it's, yeah. We've done it. The waiting period's over.
presentable
I like that
media
segment.
personality presented a fully pro-Palestinian take to an audience of millions of people. You can do stuff. And you know what? The consequence of you doing good stuff is that people vote smarter in future primaries and you get better presidential candidates to pick from. Without changing the first past the post system or the way we currently do things on a structural level, it's still always going to be a lesser of two evils deal.
Don't you
But
think
that doesn't mean you
that
don't
we
do
could-
anything.
We could save those Palestinians a lot faster if all of those people who say, hey, I want a choice on Israel, were like, I don't know if I'm voting for a Democrat this year. Earn my vote.
Again,
And
stop with the fairy time bullshit. If all of
It's
these
how
people
True. Stop.
somehow
bullshit. You
magically
yourself said- wait,
magically
you yourself have
coordinated
said
if
that
some
if Trump gets in,
listen
democracy's
over
over.
here in reality, if
wouldn't
some of
that
these
be a
people
huge
all
incentive for
I love Vaush.
magically
Democrat-
over in reality.
coordinated,
desperately
if
want
some of these
re-election
people
before
all
democracy is
magically
destroyed?
if some of these people all magically coordinated and they all decided
Magically?
on
Why
a
is magic
single
being brought
on a
into it? Did I
single
fucking evoke
wedge
Merlin
issue,
waving a magic wand over
if
this
they
shit?
all decided
I mean, sort of, you have. You didn't literally do it, but you sort of figuratively did it.
on a single wedge issue to shift their
What?
vote on
Yeah.
one wedge issue to another candidate who would have
Or
to be
several.
developed and organized and funded and promoted entirely on this wedge issue, they would then have to have more people voting for them than the entire unified Republican Party. Ergo, what you're talking about has never happened, cannot happen. You are talking about fantasy bullshit.
can't
You're
ha-
not
wait.
happy with how tedious
Wait,
reality
it
is.
happens
You-
nearly every
you
election
are
cycle.
not
Political
you are
promises
not
are made.
brave
Why do you think
for
politicians make
throwing
political
up your arms
promises
in the
the
air.
hopes of getting people to
You
vote for
are
them?
not brave for throwing your arms up in the air, ignoring reality, and only saying you'll lift a finger off or lift your ass off the seat if some implausibly, impractical, historically unprecedented shit happens
It would not-
that
how
no
would it be
political
unprecedented?
analyst would ever say would happen. But you're like, only for this will I, politics king, get out of my seat and do shit. You're not special. And no, you are. You're special in a class sense. You're more privileged than the people liable to suffer. If
True. I mean, true. He said that he would not feel the difference between the presidents if they were like, I don't know, if he wouldn't know who that is. What a ridiculous statement. Yeah, true. Preach, Vaush, preach. I like the mental gymnastic to defend the Vaush position. What are the mental gymnastics? I think I'm gonna debate. Dexmex today. Give me the mental gymnastics to defend the Vaush position. Give me them, Dexmex. I will debate you. I will defeat you forever. At least today, forever. I'm not sure about after today, but today I will defeat you forever.
this country goes under, I can leave. I'm rich. But there are millions of people in this country who not only don't have that privilege, but they work tirelessly to put the effort in where you think there's no point. your
How
day
is it-
for work is not
I'd watch that.
at the election booth.
unprecedented
Your day for
How
work is 4
unprecedented
years
for a
before.
politician to have to earn the vote of a voter. That's
You-
not unprecedented.
Then
That's literally
quit
politics
whining that you're
101.
not being catered to. You have it better than 90% of the people on this
We're not
planet.
talking about
It's true. What are the deep fat fried boys positions that you shouldn't, I don't know, that you shouldn't vote for Biden, or that you should make that Biden should earn the vote? I think something like that.
me personally being catered to. We're talking about the huge block of people who oppose the genocide
Yeah.
going on in the Gaza Strip
And
to be heard.
and
by
they're
saying
doing
we will
yes,
not
and
vote
they're
for
doing work,
politicians
and
that
their
support the
lives
genocide.
their lives will not get any easier if they just
They
don't
will
participate.
if
How
those politicians have to spin on that issue to change on that issue in order to secure those votes.
you're just
Which-
speaking
why
for
would
them.
they not
You're
do that,
you're
Vosh, if-
privileged. You're
Why would they
privileged and
not do that,
arrogant.
Vosh,
And you're
if
angry, and you're
we're
using them as a
talking about
shield.
Trump
You're using them as a
instituting fascism?
shield.
So of course these people would have a huger incentive than ever to
You're
want to
hiding
win.
behind them. The math doesn't change. The math doesn't change
Math
for you
doesn't change.
or
That's
for
right.
me,
Democrats
for nobody.
can't win
If
unless
you
people who are against
want-
the genocide.
if
Speak one at a time, please. That's not. I don't even know what they're saying at this point. Just one at a time, please. Please. I beg. One at a time.
Still
you
vote for them.
want the world to get better, you do the work between the elections, and during the election you make the best choice, and then you get your ass back to work. You,
True.
like
And real.
me, spend a lot of our time whining online. That's our jobs. But the difference between
I whine. That's my job as well.
you and me is that I don't think I'm special for my abstemiousness from the process that other people have lived and died and bled for, trying to build a world comfortable enough that we could be dipshits in a computer chair. You can do the work. You have to do the work. You do not have a right to complain and pretend that you are smarter for keeping your hands off the work.
Well, why are
There's
you
people
assuming?
who are
Why are
bleeding
you?
and dying right now, and we want to vote for the party that's allowing
The
it to happen.
people who are bleeding and dying right now, the most likely people to bleed and die, the poorest people in this country, those people vote Democrat. The poorer you are in this country, the more likely you are to vote Democrat, because in spite of the fact that your average American poor or rich is a hard, the significant proportion of people
Censored swearing.
understand, if you are poor in this country, there is a difference between living under a Democrat and living under a Republican, and you are trampling over that and the work that other people have made, the sacrifices. Do you think that winning is the hard part of politics? Losing is the name of the game. It always has been for every group all the time ever. Most of life is
I mean, that's true. That has been the true in Poland as well. Like this election, this parliamentary election has been all about not letting law and justice win. So that's definitely true. It was about not losing. Yeah. It's true. It's sort of undeniable.
learning
Yeah.
to deal with compromise.
That's
Look-
why we got a coalition with the Third Way, which is a right-wing party in its own right. And now the coalition, the newly formed coalition, will also have to navigate some compromises. But it's still far better than what we would have gotten. Thank you, Jess, for the tier 1 subscription. Also, I will have to set the O'Berry, or we can just do this. Let's go. We can just do this. We'll just do this.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Because I think that this is pertinent. You seem very agitated at the idea that publicly, vociferously withholding your vote from a politician can
You're not
have a
special,
profound
TJ.
effect on their policy.
That's true. You're not special.
Like you do understand that Biden is less likely to move if Democratic voters act like you than if he acts like us, and then if Democratic voters act like us, right?
Hydrate.
Well, I advocate for the ruthless harassment of Democratic politicians to get them to demand a ceasefire. And all
You
other
announced
manner of
you announced
political-
your intent to vote for Joe Biden before the election was even over the last time.
They don't, yeah, and I will continue to. They don't care if you threaten to withhold your vote. If voter retention, or sorry, if voter abstemiousness was something that motivated them to change their
Also, even if they're coming from a privileged position, doesn't mean the most unfortunate are right by voting Democrat. They were just fooled into doing so. I mean, Dexmex, what's the alternative? What is the alternative, Dexmex? And you haven't said what the mental gymnastics are, so I need you to answer so that I can debate you or something in the billboard of ideas. All the deep fat fried guys sound like the same voice with only minor differences. True, Susie. Right? The thing that really upsets me about these conversations, I think, is that the anti-voting person is trying to sugarcoat the act of throwing out a materially better future. That's what they want, but they rarely admit it.
their behavior. The fact that this country is like 60% participatory in our federal elections
It's
would have been
abysmal.
enough to make a difference at this point. That what matters to them is which political bloc is most likely to respond to positive messaging when it comes to voting to us. So when leftists continuously signal that we are the pickiest motherfuckers in the world and we will act against our own interests to throw our hands up to not vote, they're going to shift more with the moderates. The reason why the Democratic platform shifted to the left after Bernie Sanders normalized that shift left was because Bernie Sanders...
There isn't an alternative, just acting like a child. I don't understand why people are averse to a real third party. Okay, even as a foreigner, as a Polish person, I can answer this question for you, Dexmex. Literally, as a foreigner, I can answer this. People in the US are averse to a real third party because no real third party exists. There you go. You got my answer. That's my answer. Feel free to register and create a real third party, and then we can talk about not being averse to it. Then we can talk about not being averse to it. But I'm afraid you'll have to create it from scratch first and make it successful. I'm not averse to the third party. The system is structured such that it's statistically non-viable of a national level. The Verges law is statistically demonstrable phenomenon. Also, a third party won't win given how our system works.
prove that there was an active, mobilized, young, left-leaning contingent of voters in this country. He proved the existence of a voting bloc that the senile in Washington didn't know about before. They didn't care about them. We need to prove that bloc still exists. We can be rowdy, we can argue, we can threaten
Like I said, acting like a child because they don't understand how American politics work. It's pathetic.
a wide variety of things. But my job isn't to posture, and I'm not good at theater. So the math stays the same with me. Now, I don't have an issue with people who want to reserve the vote right now. What I have an issue with is the idea that abstemiousness from this process, a lack of participation, or willful, like, disregarding of reality with regards to who we're going to get at the end of election day, these things bother me because there is hope. I'm not pitching hopelessness. I hope constantly for the work of the people who do stuff in between the elections. I just don't like the idea that the day to take a stand from work to complacency, whether you're doing something or not, is at that voting booth. Because I don't think that. I think that it's a marginal part of political activism.
What the hell was that? Who burped? They definitely exist, but people think that the established society will collapse if we stop voting for the same parties. I mean, that's cope. I'm sorry, Dexmex. That's just cope.
So
Yeah,
you don't think so you think that Democrats don't care about losing, but you also think that fascism is inevitable if Trump wins. So how does that track?
What's
How does
the
it track that
inconsistency?
Democrats wouldn't care about losing when our democracy hangs in the balance?
I think that
Like,
Demo-
isn't this the best time possible to extract concessions from the Democratic Party
well,
when they're so under threat?
because the incentives and motivations the Dems face are a lot more complicated than we give them credit for. One of the reasons why they're so tepid
Seems like that's going around, the complications.
one of the reasons they're so tepid on the Israel thing, one of the reasons why their messaging has been inconsistent and shifting is because, for example, Israel has a heavy degree of corporate and political coordination, both with local police departments and with our military defense contractors, meaning that no matter how powerful the Dems are, it actually is pretty politically risky as a president to call for a ceasefire. Still think he should, mind you, but they're not being abstinent on this issue because they're like willfully negligent or evil. Now, there are people who are drinking the Kool-Aid pretty hard, Fetterman being a good example of them, and there were the Democrats who voted to censure Rashida Tlaib. So, like, I'm not arguing that they're all, like, unwillful participants with their hands bound. What I'm saying is we have to acknowledge that there's more at stake here than just whether or not, like, the voters, or sorry, the Dems hate their voters, you know? We
Even
have
the
to
majority of
factor in-
Republicans support a ceasefire as of the last polling I saw.
Yeah, no, it's a huge wedge, and we have to be we can be really good about this wedge too. We can be really, really effective in trying to drive the Dems left. And at the moment, we're winning. We are more pro-Palestinian than we ever have been in all of human history. Well, I say human history. It's only 100 years.
What? We've been more Palestinian than we've been in all of human history. That's a quote for the day. I love it. I love this quote.
Since the conflict began, American voters
So all of human history.
have never been this pro-Palestinian. The fact that half of Republican voters are going for that, insane.
Do you think that a vote for Joe Biden is a pro-Palestinian vote?
I mean, compared to Donald Trump, I think it's a less anti-Palestinian
You think so?
vote. Yeah, Trump has said stuff that leads me to believe he would be much more hawkish.
I mean,
with the-
isn't the action?
Yeah, I don't think Trump's
really-
gonna have any good policies on that.
I don't think he is
Personally.
either. But I don't see how you could possibly call a vote for Joe Biden.
I don't think there is.
pro-Palestinian
I don't
vote.
think there's a pro-Palestinian vote here.
There isn't, and
No,
that's
I
part of the
see one.
problem.
There are two anti-Palestinian candidates, though I do think one of them is meaningfully worse than the other. I just think it's the Palestinian thing. Like I said, this is a tough
I
time.
mean, I don't know how meaningful it is, but I'll agree there is maybe some difference.
I agree that it's not super meaningful. Like, this is an issue where there seems to be a pretty strong bipartisan consensus to be like ghoulish on this specific matter. I just I think
Against
that,
the will of the American people, by the way.
yeah, no, for sure. And that's, I think that's largely a corporate thing. I think that's because for decades politicians have
Here we see anti-intellectualism in practice. Any differentiation beyond I don't like it is portrayed as cowardice and complication as stupid. It shows how people are not willing to think through their decisions. True.
weaponized disingenuous accusations of anti-Semitism as a way of shutting up political opponents, not because they care about Jews, but rather because in the legacy of the Holocaust, people still understand fundamentally that anti-Semitism is a big no-no in a way that we haven't really done with other kinds of racial or ethnic bigotry, because we tend to codify those, and anti-Semitism gets called out for what it is, or sometimes what it isn't. So there's a lot of like
True.
social
Like, for example, all forms of anti-Zionism is branded as anti-Semitism.
there, but the left is leading the charge on the right end of this issue, right? And there are meaningful consequences to that. The White House is buckling under pressure. We know that. Staffers have admitted to it anonymously when talking to the news. Like, there are
Doesn't
people
that support
quitting-
our position of withholding your boisterous immediate support for candidates and extracting concessions by being loud and unapologetic about your opposition to their genocide?
I'm
Isn't
totally
that-
okay with you guys, with everyone.
Why don't
being
you
loud.
then why don't you do it? Because you have been openly just not only saying that you plan to vote for Biden no matter what, but encouraging your fan base to do it too, which kind of doesn't give you a whole lot of leverage when it comes to it. Definitely dumbs down the leverage, don't you think?
I think that the opposite doesn't give any leverage either, because as I said before, that would just incentivize Democrats to go after a moderate voting base.
I mean,
I-
your voice is reaching the halls of power where you were just at the White House,
I-
weren't you?
advocate for
What? You've got the power, Vaush. Just create a party.
harsh criticism and pushback, but at the end of the day, I think the best way to advocate for that, in my particular position, is to refer to the voting interests of others as a general block.
I just don't see what the incentive to give a shit about the harsh. I mean, like,
If we just
What's happening?
And his molasses-like lack of mobility on this issue.
if
That he looks at popular creators like yourself that are basically saying what TJ just said.
I mean, let's
Oh,
be
yeah,
honest.
Biden's a whole-
not watching Vosh. So.
No, but I'm saying
sure he
like,
is.
the
I've seen a
people,
picture of it.
the people that handle Biden, the advisors and the
watching me.
speechwriters and the policy wonks, they are watching Vosh.
Look.
They're not only watching Vosh, they're watching Hassan, they're watching Destiny, they're watching social media trends where this type of shit.
They're not watching me. They should be watching me. More people should be watching me and donating and subscribing. That should be a thing. Do it. Do it, cowards. Wait, no. Sorry.
It is rampant. Biden 2024, baby, before the presidency is 2 days old. That doesn't really engender you a whole lot of
Sorry.
leverage when times like this pop up.
The impression that I've gotten from the data that I've looked at and the tendencies in the halls of power seem to be that threat
Democracy is a spectrum, and we must always fight effectively for our place on that spectrum. True, democracy is, as I've read somewhere today, always in peril. Unironically.
threatening to withhold votes does basically nothing.
It's true. Democracy is basically always in peril. And you have to understand this. I also really would like to see those people deal with the German political public. Like, all the German parties have been so much less differentiated than Biden or Blinken on this, and we are six-party democracy. Duopoly is not a catch-all explanation.
It does not encourage the Dems to go further left.
You
It
just said.
So it just helps them write us off. However, there are good reasons to pressure them, and there are things that they can be incentivized with that aren't us directly threatening.
What are you
them to vote.
pressuring them
So you
with?
don't. So
What are
you
you
don't think
pressuring them
Democrats are threatened by, like, people withholding votes from them? Like, that doesn't make sense. Politicians
hold on.
specifically,
I want you to
politicians
explain.
want almost more than anything else is people to vote for them.
Vosh, please explain to me how you're pressuring them.
Specifically, people on the left withholding votes. The
Well, I'm not
Democrats.
talking about just the left. I'm talking about a broader movement of America.
I know, but I am on the left. And
Sure.
the tendency to reject the bipartisan framework can be justified differently depending on where you are in the political spectrum. If there are moderates who are withholding from the electoral process because they feel like there's no real difference no matter who wins, that's a different issue than this specific dynamic, this engagement. I think ultimately there are two main things to threaten with, okay? One is, as a progressive issue becomes more popular, the more legitimate the threat becomes that Democrats being bad in it will lose moderate voters. This has been how we've won most of the positive shifts in the Dems over the past few decades. Not by arguing people on the left want it. Who cares what the left wants? A bunch of college students, degenerates, and sodomites? No. What
I wonder which one I am.
they care about is, does the median voter care? And the median voter, by default, this person doesn't exist, but we can extrapolate. If that person doesn't care at all, whatever. But if they can be made to care, like, for example, with gay or trans rights being made a majority issue
Oh,
rather
that's
than a
my
marginal issue,
rights.
then suddenly it becomes politically popular. Notice how Hillary Clinton went from thinking marriage is between a man and a woman to thinking that gay marriage is acceptable, and Obama as well. Like, that marker, that was the 50% marker. As soon as the median voter cares, that's what the Dems care about. That's what I threaten with. Your position on this,
Well,
I
by that
scream,
standard, they should have already flipped on Israel.
it's only been a month. I genuinely think something's going to happen soon. Because
It's only been a month of the most brutal bombing campaign in modern history.
keep in mind, we're talking about a paradigm.
More bombs dropped in the first day of this war
We're
than we
talking-
dropped in the first year on Afghanistan.
I know that. We're
talking about like a 10-mile wide strip of land.
I-
The devastation is utterly unreal. It's only
And therefore, don't vote. That's so stupid. Are you in college? No.
been a month.
No, I'm not.
I know that. Yes.
It's not even something
we're
that you can
talking-
say, dude.
about an unprecedented paradigm shift on one of the most like untouchable geopolitical issues in the past half century of American politics. For in the space of a single month to go from that being like an untouched issue to there being mass protests and popularity for Democrats plummeting even with moderates, that can take some time. I could be wrong. It's possible they don't respond well to this pressure, and that also wouldn't surprise me because again, there's a lot of like corpo shit involved here. But I do think there's still a possibility that there is a move here. And also, the other big thing we threaten them with is the popularity of the issues they push for. I do agree that on average, like politicians want to get voted in. Like, you know, that's kind of their thing, even if they
Sure.
don't necessarily seek the far left as a stable voting base. And as a
Yeah,
consequence,
probably
of that,
not a great one to go for.
yeah, they're looking to edge in things that are popular. The more popular certain things are, the more comfortable they'll be supporting them, even if there's opposition. A good example of this would be climate change issues. Climate change has been a known issue for well over half a century, but only in the past few decades has the popular understanding of climate change gotten to a point where Democrats, who have always, not always, but for a while now, known about the issue and kind of, teeter-tattered at the edge of it, but not really committed to it. Now, Joe Biden, he's not perfect at it, but the shift in rhetoric from now to even like early Obama or hell, late Clinton, massive. And a lot of that is just because they know it's popular enough that they can get away with it in spite of the potential corporate harm. So
Let's
that's
cancel the big pipeline and then make a bunch of little pipelines, Jack.
that's
That isn't the win that you're selling here to me.
Can you engage with what I've said and not with
I'm engaging with what you
potential
said.
counterexample?
I don't care what the rhetoric from Biden is. The rhetoric in the lead up to this, when he was trying to convince people to vote for his old decrepit warmongering racist ass, was I'm going to get you $15 minimum wage. I'm going to get you a $15 minimum wage.
You're
I'm getting you.
indignant
One right-wing president will threaten democracy because his entire party and voter base are behind him, regardless if it's in their best interest in the long run. So this is one of the few topics that Destiny actually gets right. It can never happen here is what they all say before it happens there. True. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Like it's the most naive position that it could never happen here. Of course it could. And if you're just gonna be ignorant and close your eyes, plug your ears, it is gonna happen sooner or later. And you're gonna wake up in a reality that will be quite unpleasant and that you will have no control over. And by then it's basically game over. I sincerely hope that's not what you want.
Trail at him not fulfilling every campaign promise like every other politician ever means nothing to me. His rhetoric and his policies have been better on climate than were in the past.
I don't know what's worse, my indignant betrayal or your placid acceptance.
So no, listen. This is you. This is the child tossing their dinner off the table.
Yeah,
I am not.
Child tossing dinner. Wah! I'm not eating this, mommy. I've got other things to eat.
Children,
I am not
you've done that one already.
accepting. No. I am not accepting
I'm not a
anything
fucking child,
when I
kid.
state the fact
Beverly Hills
that
fucking
Biden's
piece of shit.
rhetoric
Dude,
and
don't call me a fucking
policies
child, you
com-
bitch.
So mad. Oh my god. Don't call me a child, you kid. You Beverly Hills bitch. Oh. Ah. That's funny. Now that's funny. He got so angry over being called a child.
Bitch.
Wait, be less emotional, okay?
I've done
men
more
here, all
fucking
right?
I've done more stand-up labor than your lily white Beverly Hills ass has ever done. Don't call me a child on my show.
Okay.
This is the funniest thing ever. It's not Vosh's fault that Paul doesn't understand anything about politics. Paul has Benjamin Button disease. He mulls over that for the rest of the debate. Really? I bet I've done more than Paul. Most of my work life has been in factories. Oh, interesting. Let's continue. Let's just continue, okay?
Then, like
Go
an
fuck
adult,
yourself.
listen to what I have to say.
I will
All right?
as soon as you
It is
agree to
not-
stop being a shit.
Can you show me then? I need, listen, okay? Like a child myself, I lack object permanence, so I need to witness you not act like one for 5 seconds while I talk, all right? You can say it's acceptance, it's reality.
I
The
love
rhetoric
this.
and the policy have gotten better, and it's a product of public acceptance. You providing examples of Biden doing bad things or saying that rhetoric itself isn't enough, these are not meaningful counterarguments, okay? Things have gotten better. I'm arguing for hope. I'm arguing for a process that makes
You got a
things
weird
happen.
way of arguing for hope. Life is suffering and you just got to accept it and suck it up because that's just the way it is.
If that's their takeaway, then they're really stupid. I'm sorry. No offense. No offense, Paul. No offense, TJ. No offense, Scotty. If that's the takeaway from what's being said here, then you're just not very smart. I'll translate. Life is, in fact, full of suffering. Suffering is happening all around us every day. Every second, suffering is happening right now. And we need to be able to first find joy in this world that is full of suffering. You cannot tell me that it's not. And you need to work hard for a better world that has less suffering, even if you don't get your results within your lifetime. There you go. I've translated this mystifying thing that Vosh was trying to tell them. This horrible doomer thing. There you go. There you go. Just because you at the moment don't experience much suffering, it does not mean that the world at large is not full of suffering.
It is, Jack, man.
And now we have
that's some real thin gruel hope you've got there that you're selling.
And now we have weekends. Now we get to enjoy the
Yeah, for how? No, do we really though?
Yes.
See, you haven't held a 9 to 5 before. I don't know what a weekend was. Saturday was just a day of the week to me when I worked my jobs.
Yeah, and that's
So why
rough.
don't you like?
It's a shame
you
you've
just
turned
assume
your
everybody's
back
got
on the
weekends.
proletarian interest now. We have
Turn my
weekends.
back on it because I started my own business. Go yourself,
Okay.
bitch.
Do you believe that there is value in pushing and suffering for a good political outcome, even if it takes a lot of time, as every bit of progress we've ever enjoyed has
Absolutely.
happened before?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Jesus.
so all I'm saying is most of the good things that we enjoy today were not born of some big, decisive, sweeping rejection of the status quo. They were usually, but this is like revolutionary fantasizing. It's something that a lot of people fall into when they feel doomer. What actually tends to happen is that a bunch of cynical people drop out, get injured, become alcoholics, and die at home, whereas the people delusional enough to cling on to hope in spite of all contrary evidence actually make the change. People who go in every day, no matter how bad it seems, and work and work and work, and they fight, and the cops show up and they bust their union, and
Speaking of working, I'm working super hard to bring you the best content possible. So consider donating or something. Yes.
they shoot their union lead, but they keep coming back for more, and then eventually one
And
day
the thing is, even if there's some disagreement on that level, that has nothing to do with politics, metaphysics. Metaphysical differences don't allow you to say this isn't perfect, so I don't vote. True.
there's enough public pressure that something happens, but that
You're like
process
Mother
is
Teresa.
suffering.
You know that? You essentialize suffering. Oh my God. It's the people that grind their lives away while the boot is on their neck constantly with little to no
That's not what's being said. That is not what's being said.
relief ever. that are the you know, lionize that a little more without ever having experienced it.
We all suffer. Some of us suffer for a reason.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Jesus.
I think we all
Is
suffer
that
for a
is that
reason.
too messianic? The idea that we have to work for good political outcomes, is that too like optimistic and hopeful? Is that
When have we
naive?
advocated for not working for political outcomes? We're just we're talking about
Jesus Christ. I don't think those three should speak on politics like at all. Like
tactics here, bro. Are you seem like
I mean, Dex makes what you seem to be advocating for will change something, but for far worse. Okay? I mean, what you're advocating for will bring about change. It's just not really the change that you want to see. Hippos got some of the blue-collar labor bigotry working to death in retail, and office job doesn't count as much as many work that gives you rough skin.
really invested in this idea that me and TJ are advocating for, like, oh, let's just sit around on our asses because nothing matters anyway. I know that's the easier thing to argue against, but the fact that you've spent such a profound amount of this appearance on our show tonight misrepresenting our position and
Jesus Christ.
tilting against windmills. I don't know how to tell it. Let me put it explicitly for you. I am not advocating for people to do nothing political. I am not advocating for people to sit around on their hands and do nothing. I'm not even advocating for people
You sort of are.
not to vote. I know, must be shocking, right? What I'm advocating for is for people like you and I and everybody else to stop focusing so much on re-electing Democrats and to maybe think about the tactics and the power, the little bit of power that we do have within that system. Maybe start using that in a smart way and maybe start
Can you give any examples?
building something else. Now, if that's childlike,
It is a bit, yeah. I mean, to just say, hey, let's just do something better. Like, okay, what? How?
my apologies. If that's fantasy like, my apologies. If that's too hopeful, my apologies. That's who I am. That's what I hope for. That's what I advocate for. So have
I don't know what you advocate for. You just say we have to do things better. I honestly have no clue what you advocate for at this point. I have no clue. Like what?
I cleared up your confusion on my position?
Look,
Oh my god. Vosh is trying so hard not to lose it. It's like these guys like the KPD and the 30s with even less bases behind them, incapable of distinguishing bourgeoisie liberals from fascists. It's I do like Vosh's reactions here.
Confusion on my position?
This needs to be an animated emote, I swear. This needs to be made into an animated emote. Or this face needs to be an emote. This face. A close-up of this face needs to be an emote. I swear. It's just a picture is worth 1,000 words.
look. In 1920, Lenin
Jesus Christ.
wrote a letter addressing and regarding British workers and their relationship to the British Labour Party. He thought the Labour Party
I thought they liked historical examples.
Bye.